drama Where There's Smoke, centered on firefighters balancing dangerous rescues with personal struggles. The series stars Tyler Lepley, Mike Merrill, and Da Vinci. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Head to Waba Grill weekdays after 3 p.m. for their $5 happy hour and try their new Chili Crisp dumplings. Bold, crunchy, and tossed in a fiery crisp, paired with a premium Waba beverage drink like their authentic Thai tea. Get both for just $5 only at Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers beat the New York Knicks Sunday without LeBron. He's got an elbow injury. Luka Doncic dropped 35 points in the Lakers' 110-97 win at Crypto.com. The Clippers play the Knicks tonight at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Clippers are 31-32. A win tonight puts them at 500 for the first time since November 3rd when they were 3-3. Congratulations to the UCLA women's basketball team. They won their second straight Big Ten Conference Tournament championship Sunday. UCLA dominated Iowa 96-45, 25 straight wins for the Bruins, who are now 31-1. Kiki Rice had 15 points and 8 assists. Rice was voted tournament MVP. The Rams had the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. They signed 25-year-old Trent McDuffie Sunday to a 4-year extension worth $124 million. The Rams got McDuffie in a trade Wednesday with Kansas City. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Warning, evacuation in progress. Leave the building.
It's a total takeover.
That's what I want.
On Friday, March 27th, KBLA Talk 1580 belongs to the women.
Are you ready?
All day long, from 6 in the morning to midnight, the mic belongs to powerful, accomplished women, and we are not letting go. Nothing but the voices of women who inspire, challenge, and move us forward. It's the women of KBLA Talk 1580, sun up to sundown. I'm Dominique DePrima, and I'll anchor the day with a 3-hour live panel from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the state of black women in LA, followed by women talking to women all day long about the issues that matter most. Our hosts for the day include Jill Monroe, Adrian Shropshire, Dr. Melina Abdullah, Angela Reddick Wright, Raquel Graham, Angelique Francis, Tasha Thomas, Dr. Shalonda Crawford, Dion Raymond, and a couple of special guest hosts for the day that we'll be announcing soon. This is Women's History Month, and we're not just celebrating it, we're amplifying it. Join us Friday, March 27th on KBLA Talk 1580, where women take over all day, all night. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 and all of our socials for the rundown. You don't want to miss a single word. And happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
So my ladies,
you sure know how to work that.
Go.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavisSmileyShow.com. That's the TavisSmileyShow.com or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, Dr. Cornel West and yours truly will offer our personal reflections on the homegoing service for the Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. Last weekend in Chicago. We were honored to be there. I guess I didn't expect all the commentary. I mean, Lord have mercy. I didn't see all the commentary popping off about those services after the fact. It seems that everybody on social media has an opinion about the who, the what, the why, the where of those services. I literally just read a piece on TMZ headlined, Jesse Jackson Jr. slams Obama, Biden for Trump remarks at father's funeral. This thing done made TMZ, y'all. Everybody's popping off about these services. We'll offer our reflections, Dr. West, and yours truly will, in hour two, and maybe get into some of the other stuff that people are talking about and see what we make of that. So lots to talk about with Dr. West. On the B side of hour two, Dr. West and I will be joined by two of the speakers at the funeral services, Father Michael Pfleger and Rabbi Stephen Jacobs, to get their reflections. I can't wait to ask Pfleger how he felt about Obama calling him a crazy priest. Trying to be funny, but he calls Father Michael Pfleger, in his remarks, a crazy priest. They put the camera on his face in the auditorium, and he was none too happy. We'll talk about that again. It was a lot jumping off last week at those services. I digress for now. In our third hour, two more conversations. Up first, flutist, arranger, and Compton native David Crawford on his single, Africa Nouveau, the first release from his forthcoming debut album, Something Borrowed, Something New. And on the B side of our three, we'll check in with my colleague, Dr. Nicolai Corte, who covered the Jackson funeral services alongside many other black journalists I saw there, Ed Gordon, Roland Martin, Abby Phillip, etc. Anxious to hear Dr. Corte's insights in our last half hour today. But in this first hour, we actually start today's show where I left you last week when I caught that plane to Chicago. We were talking about the firing of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. So on the B side of this hour, conversation about her replacement, Senator Markwayne Mullin, who is a member of the Cherokee Nation, which obviously is a historic first. Imagine that. A Native American running Homeland Security. I like the sound of that. A Native American running Homeland Security. That's funny to me. We'll talk about it with Chuck Hoskin Jr., Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation. But we commence today's show in conversation with Ashleigh Fields, breaking news reporter at The Hill. Before I get to Ashleigh Fields, this is Kristi Noem thanking Donald Trump for her new role.
So I do want to thank the president for creating this and for giving me the honor and the opportunity to serve as a special envoy to this region, to the Western Hemisphere. This Shield of Americas will be a powerful example to the rest of the world about what's possible. There's nothing like this happening today anywhere else in the world. And the way that we cooperate on our shared ideals of freedom and of democracy and safety and security will be a shining light to all of those who wish to be more like all of us.
Talk about making stuff up, just making stuff up. Special envoy for the Shield of Americas. We'll get to that in a second here. First of all, Ashley, good to have you on. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an end great. I'm doing well and glad to have you on the program. Let me start by asking this breaking news last week that we were talking about again before I took off for Chicago. Everybody knew that Kristi Noem was in some trouble after that Senate hearing. One day, the House hearing the next day, where she refused to back down on calling Mr. Preddy and Ms. Good domestic terrorists. Even Republicans were going in on her. So the handwriting was sort of on the wall, and yet everybody was gobsmacked and surprised when Donald Trump came out and said, I'm firing Kristi Noem. What did you make of that breaking news for starters? And I'll jump from there.
Well, people were surprised in part because President Trump has not commented negatively on former Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. He still, up until this point, has not shared anything about her, about allegations of her misconduct with having relations with a subordinate, doing a $22 million ad campaign, although he said he was not aware of those plans. He also has not, railed against her and the way that she's been approaching these immigration operations nationwide, which, as you mentioned earlier, is something that Republicans and Democrats have pushed back on sort of in an equal measure. And so that's why so many people were surprised. It's even more surprising to see Senator Markwayne Mullin ascend to that role so quickly, especially because he told reporters he had no idea that he would be placed in that role, and that he found out moments before the press was told. But as we know of this administration, a lot of things are unprecedented and unexpected, and so it's continuing in that tradition and fashion.
When we come forward, I'm going to ask Ashleigh Fields directly why she thinks, as slow down, Tavis, as one who covers these breaking news stories on the Hill, why she thinks the president did, in fact, now decide to push out Kristi Noem. I think the hearings had something to do with it. But I want to get her take on why she thinks this decision happened last week. We'll talk more about Mr. Mullin, not just with her, but again with Chuck Hoskin Jr., chief of the Cherokee Nation on the backside of this house. Just getting started here today on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley.
They say time flies when you're having fun. The founding members cohort of The Art of Conversation is almost over. Hard to believe. It's been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now, the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, do not hesitate. Go to TavisTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavisTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You sort through tons of resumes and you get too many so-so applicants. You're just waiting for someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now, there's a place where you can meet them fast. ZipRecruiter.
Need to hire right away. Start your search for strong candidates. The right fit awaits. Build your team. Build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. And you're on your way to meeting your match. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So try it now. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline nasal spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line. But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Ashleigh Fields, breaking news reporter at The Hill. And there was some breaking news last Thursday. Before I left the air, Donald Trump fired Kristi Noem, making her the first person in this cabinet in Trump 2.0 to get pushed out. How do you read that, Ashleigh? There are all kinds of persons who've been in a lot of hot water. There were some persons who were initially nominated in Trump 2.0 that didn't make it. Didn't run successfully the gauntlet to become a member of this administration. So he pulled back on a couple of people in the process. But for those who got through, nobody up until now has been pushed out. So Kristi Noem becomes the first. How do you read that?
She's the first secretary to be pushed out. We saw National Security Advisor Mike Waltz get replaced and put into a new position as U.S. Ambassador to NATO. And so I think it shows that President Trump is definitely not unwilling to rewire this administration, but he's definitely keeping people close to him who he knows are loyal to his mission and loyal to his agenda. As you mentioned earlier, Kristi Noem has been placed as the special envoy to the Shield of Americas, or for the Shield of Americas, and will continue her focus on immigration policy there. And so despite controversies, President Trump is not completely throwing her away or casting her out from this administration, which is interesting.
Yeah. Speaking of interesting, how do you read that interesting factoid? Because you're right. There are a couple of examples now, persons who he has pushed out of current positions, but made space for them someplace else. That's not typically how it works. When you get pushed out, you get pushed out. You go back to the private sector. Trump is moving pieces around, which, again, is not the way it's typically done. What do we make of that?
Well, President Trump, again, he wants people around him who are going to push his agenda, who are going to be hardliners in their approach to making sure that his policies are implemented on a national and global scale. I think that he truly appreciates Noem's level of positivity when she speaks about this administration. Again, we just played that clip of her thanking the president for being reassigned to this new role. And so it's just keeping all things amicable. Earlier this year or last year, we also saw, people try to say that there was controversy in the White House with Susie Wiles. But again, this is something that the administration has hampered down on or doubled down on in stating that they are all in close ties with one another and good relations with one another. And that's something that they want to keep going as they continue throughout these next few years in the White House.
Yep. So what do we know about this new position, Special Envoy for the Shield of Americas? Who came up with that title, that name, that assignment? What does all this mean? What do we know about it?
President Trump launched this group over the weekend during a summit that he held in Florida. This is something that he's gathered Latin American leaders on. So when we say Americas, he's mentioning South and North America. The president has tried to curb the flow of immigration from some of these Latin American countries, and that's something that Noem will do in this new role as special envoy. She's also going to be talking about counter-narcotics methods, counter-terrorism methods. President Trump this year has urged Mexico, Venezuela, other places to, really go after these cartel organizations. He's named them foreign terrorist organizations, and so he's been able to target them with military action. And so that's what he's looking to do with this Shield of America's group and sort of promote regional security.
I want to pivot now from Kristi Noem to the other big story, Iran. This story continues, of course, to have legs, as we say in the business, and will, sadly, I think regrettably, for weeks, maybe even years to come. So Donald Trump has once again, shifted his objectives in Iran. I've lost count now. I'm up to 8 or 9 reasons, rationales they've given for why we did this. And they still haven't gotten their story straight about whether Donald Trump really is doing BB's business or whether Donald Trump pushed BB to do it. I mean, you can't get facts out of this administration as far as I'm concerned. And they're not even on message and on point with the stuff they're pushing out. But having said that, Donald Trump has now shifted his objective on Iran again. And now the objective is, as he calls it, unconditional surrender. That's what he wants now. Unconditional surrender. You probably heard by now that a new supreme leader has been appointed, the son of the one they just murdered, the one they assassinated. He now has been exalted to be the new supreme leader in Iran, which makes it clear to me, at least, or anybody paying attention, that this is a statement to us that they are not as yet ready to acquiesce. When you choose the son of the guy that got killed, that's not a surrender. But Donald Trump has said that the goal now is unconditional surrender. It ain't just Donald Trump. Indeed, it is his Secretary of War. That's their title, not ours. We call it Secretary of Defense, but he really is Secretary of War right about now. Here's Pete Hegseth talking about this unconditional surrender last night on 60 Minutes.
The President said recently there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. What does that look like? Unconditional surrender? How will you know it's real?
It means we're fighting to win. It means we set the terms. We'll know when they're not capable of fighting. There'll be a point where they'll have no choice but to do that. Whether they know it or not, they will be combat ineffective. They will surrender.
Typically, the understanding of a surrender is person to person. Is that what would be required in a matter like this?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. Whether they want to admit it or not, whether their pride lets them say it out loud or not, it's President Trump who will set the terms of that.
The president of Iran said yesterday that the U.S. demand for unconditional surrender is, quote, a dream that they should take to their grave.
There was a very long war between Iran and Iraq. almost 8 years, and they never surrendered in that war. And I'm just wondering if that factors into your calculus of the president's calculus.
I mean, there was
at
a
all.
really long fight that I was a part of, and my generation was
Yes,
a part of.
I know that,
in
sir.
Iraq and Afghanistan, where a lot of foolish approaches were used. This is war. This is conflict. This is bringing your enemy to their knees. Now, whether they will have a ceremony in Tehran Square and surrender, that's up to them.
A dream that we should take to our graves. So, Ashleigh Fields, how are you covering and how should we read these shifting U.S. objectives? Now it's unconditional surrender, Ashleigh.
This is something that lawmakers in Washington are trying to make sense of. Even those who have been briefed at these classified intelligence meetings, some of them have said that they are unclear on President Trump's goal in Iran and how he will be able to measure these points of success to know when that he'll pull out. And so right now, as we're looking at the situation as it continues to develop, we're also noting that Khamenei's son has a personal vengeance in this fight against the United States, in this fight against Israel. His wife was also killed in those strikes that claimed his father's life. And so this is something that is going to, result in more attacks on Gulf state countries, on allies, on U.S. assets across the globe. This could also wake up sleeper cells, as they're called, here in the United States, which are just people who are here plotting for attacks at the right allotted time. There's a lot of things that could be made of this, but right now there's a lot of uncertainty, especially given the current international market and instability there. This is something that leaders in Spain and other countries have called for to be de-escalated as we're continuing to see prices rise with gas, with oil, with heat. This will have an impact on Americans just as much as it will have an impact on those overseas. So this is definitely a developing story.
It is indeed. There are a few things you said I want to go back and give you a chance to unpack a bit more, Ashley. I'm honored to have you on. Donald Trump and those around him were clear in the last few days about suggesting, or not even suggesting, just flat out saying that they indeed intended to have a role in choosing the new leader. They assassinated the last one, and to their minds at least, they may have been kind of stuck on stupid when they advanced this notion, but they thought they were going to have a role, or at least publicly said they intended to have a role in choosing the new leader. Clearly that did not happen, Ashley.
That's correct. And thank you so much for having me on. President Trump has said the new leader has to be someone that he approves of. And he gave the example of what he did in Venezuela, where the vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, was or ascended to the presidency. And he now has a good relationship with her there. But this is something that in Iran is not being condoned. They have a strong vengeance against America, especially as these strikes have claimed the lives of 1,200 people, more than a third of those people being women and children. And so, Khamenei and his family, this line of succession is definitely not one that's going to bend or bow easily. And so Trump said on Sunday that this was something he's not happy about, but he's looking to have certain control there. One thing I also like to point out is that earlier this year, there were protests against the government that sort of started in February, January, around that time. And President Trump encouraged people to rise up against the government there. I think that he thought amid these strikes that there would be sort of more of a push to try and overthrow this theocratic regime, which has not really happened. It could be because people are in dire straits, trying to escape these bombs, or because they are, willing to acquiesce to the leaders at hand. We don't know, but that's the current state there.
To Ashley's point about the children, here are Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth on Air Force One, I believe, denying that we were behind that school bombing that everybody's talking about in Iran.
Did the United States bomb a girls' elementary school in southern Iran on the first day of the war and kill 175 people?
In my opinion, based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran.
Is that true, Mr. Hegseth? It was Iran who did that?
We're certainly investigating.
Still investigating.
But the only side that targets civilians is Iran.
We think it was done. We think it was done by Iran. Because they're very inaccurate, as you know, with their munitions. They have no accuracy whatsoever. It was done by Iran.
Iran ain't the only one inaccurate with their missions. It's us as well. And so there you have, again, it's on Air Force One. I can't do anything about that ambient sound you hear on the plane. I hate when they do that. But anyway, Donald Trump and Hegseth denying that they were behind that school bombing that killed 100 and some precious children. But somebody did it. You hear them suggesting that we didn't do it, that Iran did. We shall see. But there are innocent victims. That's the point here that needs to be made. There are innocent victims, including precious babies, who are being murdered in this particular process. And so I wanted to get that clip out right quick since Ashleigh mentioned the children. Let me circle back down to the other point you made about these sleeper cells. What concern, to the extent you're hearing any, what concern are you hearing on the Hill in Washington in your reporting, Ashleigh, on the part of lawmakers about the blowback that may be coming to us because of what Donald Trump has done?
Senate Democrats have said again that they're concerned about America's ability to have interceptors and missiles to, provide defense to the incoming strikes from Iran. And so that's one thing that I know Senator Mark Warner out of Virginia has flagged and questioned. There's also concerns about civilian safety here, as there's, been rumored of planned attacks that could possibly be coming. And so there's just a certain level of uncertainty. Senators have said that President Trump seems to have gone into this war unprepared for some of the other factors that could be triggered by these bombings overseas and the potential of a, quote, forever war. I know on the weekend, on Sunday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt did not rule out the possibility of a draft or American boots on the ground in the Middle East. And so there's a lot of new developments that people are, just unaware of how the Trump administration will continue to pursue their goals or objectives overseas.
Speaking of boots on the ground, we are told in reporting from NBC News that Donald Trump has privately shown interest, serious interest, they say, in ground troops in Iran. So according to NBC News, Donald Trump is talking to those in his inner circle about what they term serious interest in ground troops in Iran. That would change the game altogether. And frankly, the U.S. has become more cowardly over the years when it comes to putting troops on the ground. We use these we use these joysticks and these drones to drop bombs everywhere. But we ain't been so keen in the last number of years of putting boots on the ground. Donald Trump does that. You can trust and believe it's going to change this narrative altogether. We shall see. But Iran has called for Trump's blood, particularly after he sunk that warship of theirs. They came out publicly and called for his blood. For his part, Donald Trump has said he guesses, that's his phrase, his word, he guesses that Americans should worry about Iran retaliating. How do I read the fact that the president is telling American people, actually, I guess we should be worried about their retaliating?
President Trump has made sparse assessments about how this will impact Americans, how this will impact gas prices. I think that his main focus has been taking out their nuclear weapons program, taking out the leadership that is there, and that's been the core goal of this campaign through these offensive strikes. And so that's his main focus. He's been largely unwilling to discuss these other repercussions that could potentially impact people here in the United States.
I've said many times on this program, Ashley, that I'll say it again now, that Mike Johnson has essentially turned over his gavel to Donald Trump. Congress is letting him just run roughshod over them every day and in a variety of ways. They have given him a pass in the Senate and the House. They had a chance to reel him in, as you know, on this Iran policy, and they chose not to. I guess the question is, how much worse does this have to get for Congress to step up and to get involved?
Well, over the weekend, Senator John Kennedy, a Republican from Louisiana, said that Republicans are going to make sure that President Trump has the money to back this campaign in Iran. It's not something that they're easily going to give up on. House Speaker Mike Johnson has, strongly backed the president on this measure. Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican from South Carolina, has also backed the president on this measure. He's had personal talks himself with people in Israel about these strikes. And Lindsey Graham said that the country would make tons of money off of this war. And so, Republicans completely have his back on this, and they also have a majority in the House and the Senate. And so it's going to be very hard for Democrats to push back on this measure and, sort of try and gain some control here over the president and his decision to continue striking Iran. Last week, there was a war powers resolution up for a vote in Congress, and it failed to pass. The resolution would have blocked Trump from continuing these strikes. And so it just goes to show that he has large support from his party.
I love a good play-by-play contributor and analyst in sports or politics, and Ashleigh Fields is pretty good at this play-by-play thing. She is the breaking news reporter at The Hill. I'm honored to have had her on this program. Ashleigh, thank you for your time, your insights. We will do it again. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.
My honor to have you on this program. Speaking of Kristi Noem, she's been replaced by a member of the Cherokee Nation. That is a historic first in this country. I'll say it again. I just love hearing myself say it. There's a member of the Cherokee Nation running Homeland Security in the United States of America. We'll talk to Chuck Hoskin Jr., the principal chief, I should say, of the Cherokee Nation about that appointment of Senator Markwayne Mullin when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. New York and 23 other states are suing to block President Trump's new tariffs, saying he's sidestepping a recent Supreme Court ruling. Black New York Attorney General Letitia James.
And now the president has chosen a different route to accomplish the same unlawful, illegal, and unconstitutional goal.
Attorneys general argue the levies are unlawful and drive up costs, citing data shows Americans are paying more of the burden. The DOJ is preparing to offer plea deals to about a dozen defendants in a mob-linked illegal poker case that also includes several NBA figures. More than 30 people were indicted last year, including Heat guard Terry Rozier, Blazers coach Chauncey Billups, and former player Damon Jones. And Apple Music is rolling out new AI transparency tags to flag songs, videos, and artwork created with artificial intelligence. Labels and distributors must disclose AI use, and if it's not listed, it assumes none. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Head to Waba Grill weekdays after 3 p.m. for their $5 happy hour and try their new chili crisp dumplings. Bold, crunchy, and tossed in a fiery crisp, paired with a premium Waba beverage drink like their authentic Thai tea. Get both for just $5 only at Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers beat the New York Knicks Sunday without LeBron. He's got an elbow injury. Luka Doncic dropped 35 points in the Lakers' 110-97 win at Crypto.com. The Clippers play the Knicks tonight at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Clippers are 31-32. A win tonight puts them at 500 for the first time since November 3rd when they were 3-3. Congratulations to the UCLA women's basketball team. They won their second straight Big Ten Conference Tournament championship Sunday. UCLA dominated Iowa 96-45, 25 straight wins for the Bruins, who are now 31-1. Kiki Rice had 15 points and 8 assists. Rice was voted tournament MVP. The Rams had the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. They signed 25-year-old Trent McDuffie Sunday to a 4-year extension worth $124 million. The Rams got McDuffie in a trade Wednesday with Kansas City. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Angie. Did you know a billboard can save a baby's life? It's true. You can make a difference by helping us spread the pro-life message to reach those who are struggling with an unplanned pregnancy. Please make a gift today. Visit prolifeacrossamerica.org.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
This is the story of the one. As an HVAC technician, he and his digital multimeter are in high demand. So when a noisy office HVAC turns out to be a failing blower motor, he doesn't break a sweat. With Grainger's easy-to-use website and product information, he selects the product he needs to keep everything humming right along. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
You are indeed. I'm glad to have you with us in this back half of the first hour of our program. We just talked with Ashleigh at the Hill about Kristi Noem being Ashleigh Fields, that is. Our breaking news report at the Hill about the firing of Kristi Noem last Thursday before I left the building to head to Chicago for Reverend Jackson's funeral. And as promised, I'm delighted now to be in conversation with Chuck Hoskin Jr., who is the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, and invited him on because this is historic. Native American running Homeland Security in this country. Markwayne Mullin, senator, member of the Cherokee Nation, is the person that Donald Trump tapped to take the position of Kristi Noem when he pushed her out. Before I get to the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, Mr. Hoskin Jr., here is Senator Markwayne Mullin reacting to his new role at DHS.
Tell us your reaction when you got the phone call from him.
I was excited. I mean, when
you saw his name called.
Well, it came from the White House, so it came from the switchboard. But I was excited. The president, first of all, the president, I have a really good relationship. We talk all the time, anyways. I've got to be honest with you, I wasn't expecting the call today, but super excited. And I'm more excited about just ready to get started. There's a lot of work we can do to get Department of Homeland Security working, working for the American people. The Department of Homeland Security has a very broad jurisdiction, and I think there's a lot of work that we need to do, and I'm excited about it.
Senator Fetterman says he's going to vote for you. Do you expect other Democrats to vote for you?
I want people to understand, when I go into this position, yes, I'm a Republican, yes, I'm conservative, but Department of Homeland Security is to keep everybody, regardless if you support me, if you don't support me, regardless of what your thoughts are. I'm here to enforce the policies that Congress passed, and right now I'm part of it, but once I make that transition, my focus is to keep the homeland secure. That's going to be my focus, and we're super excited about this opportunity.
It's a tough job right about now for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is we were just talking again, Chief Hoskin, about the fact that we can expect some blowback for this drama in Iran. There are sleeper cells in this country. So it's a tough assignment for anybody right about now on a variety of fronts, say nothing of immigration and ICE, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm honored to have you back on the program. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Tavis. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So let me just start with this. What do you make of this appointment? It is, as I said, historic in a lot of ways.
It's historic. A Cherokee Nation citizen, a Native American, being atop one of the larger and certainly critical federal agencies. So anytime we achieve that in Indian country, it's important. But the most important thing is whether this is good for the country, whether this improves how things are going in DHS. I think it will improve, so I'm optimistic that Senator Mullin, soon to be Secretary Mullin, will do a fine job.
Give us a sense of how Indian country, Indian Nation, as you put it, has been in relationship to the Department of Homeland Security of late.
Well, there's been media accounts of some really troubling interactions between ICE agents and Native Americans, and it centers around allegations of profiling, whether a tribal citizenship card, which again, tribes are nations. They have the sovereign ability to issue credentials, and those credentials are recognized by federal agencies and a great many other government authorities. So when you hear about those situations where ICE is, as the media reports go, in some instances not respecting that, that's concerning. And I think, Indian country is not a monolith, but in some parts of Indian country, this is a real concern. I think that's one of the reasons that we should be optimistic about Senator Mullin, because he understands Indian country, not just because he's a citizen of the Cherokee Nation, because he's worked in the policy area that I think is beneficial to somebody understanding how tribes work.
He does understand what it means to be a member of the Cherokee Nation. I get that. I'd like to want to believe that matters to him. First and foremost, more than anything else. He was a member of the nation before he was ever a politician. So I hope that matters most to him. But it does lead me to ask what we know about his politics. He is a Republican. Do his politics align with Cherokee Nation, Indian Nation?
Well, we don't draw ourselves down the partisan lines that have become to dominate in a really harsh way American politics. I will say this. He has been a champion for a lot of issues that Cherokee Nation and Indian country cares about. And I'm talking about things that often are behind the scenes, making sure funding is protected, making sure the rights in terms of sovereignty are vindicated. He's been a champion of that. Now, I'm a Cherokee Nation citizen. I'm also an American with a set of eyes and ears. I know that there are sharp differences between Democrats and Republicans on a lot of issues, including immigration policy. I mean, my goodness, that's what part of the last election was about. The American people voted in policymakers that have put in place policies that are dominating everybody's attention. Here's what I think, though, Senator Mullin brings. I think he brings a level-headed view of this. Now, if people are expecting a new head of DHS to dramatically shift immigration policy in this country, that's not what an appointment is for. That's what elections are for. But if we want more competent leadership, because I think there has been a degree of chaos and, reading what I've read about spending on TV ads by former Secretary Noem. I don't think Markwayne Mullin will do any of that. I think he's a very serious person when it comes to this job. And again, we're not talking about a dramatic change in federal immigration policy, but I do think the competency level is going to increase as a result of Senator Mullin taking office.
I find myself, Chief Hoskin, every now and again on this program having to lovingly and respectfully and humbly check people when they refer to slavery as America's original sin. As you well know, I'm an African American, and I am sensitive to that storyline for all the obvious reasons. And yet I find myself saying to people here and there, no, that's not exactly right. Slavery was not America's original sin. The original sin is what we did to the Native Americans. So I always make it a point to set the record straight in conversations where I need to do that, even though I know people are well-intentioned. When they refer to slavery as America's original sin, it was not. Why do I raise that? I raise that because if anybody understands what your community has been through, it ought to be a member of your community, e.g., Senator Markwayne Mullin. It also seems to me that if you know what the Native American people were subjected to, there ought to be a sensitivity, a greater level of understanding and empathy for what other people are going through when they're being put upon by the U.S. government, particularly when sometimes it results in the killing of fellow citizens like we saw in Minneapolis. I say all that to ask what you think we can, in fact. You said a moment ago the things that you don't think Markwayne Mullin will do, but what can we expect? Does he have the empathy? Does he have the sensitivity, the understanding to how others ought to be treated given the way his people have been so maltreated?
I believe so. He's a Cherokee Nation citizen. He is a absolute conservative, avowed supporter of President Trump. And so I think he would tell you that indicates generally what his politics are. But I can tell you my experience with him is a person who is curious about policy and then gains some depth on the subject. And he did that by not only being a member of our tribe, but when he was in a position to do something to help Indian country, He was thoughtful. He learned. Now, look, that is something I think that we need more of in federal leadership. People that are genuinely willing to learn and not coming in with an agenda that they want to impose as harshly and as quickly as they can. So I think we have that going for us. I do think he understands deeply the historic atrocities visited upon Native peoples, including his own ancestors. And I think that helps inform his understanding of the world. Now, he has a boss. His boss is the President of the United States, and the President of the United States has set expectations and a policy in place that is decidedly aggressive in terms of immigration enforcement. But I am convinced that does not mean policing that is a menace to communities. And that is what I've been seeing on TV. I just don't think Senator Mullin believes in that. I think he thinks law enforcement officers ought to be well-trained. They ought to respect civil rights, human rights, and due process, because I think he believes that's what the country's about. And I'm counting on that. I really am.
Yep, we are counting on that as well. We shall see. When we come forward, I want to ask Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr., Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation, what he makes of the fact that it was a Republican president who made this historic appointment. I realize that in some ways it is symbolic, and I value substance much more than symbolism, but symbolism does in fact matter. But here again, a Republican, no less Donald Trump, making this historic appointment out of the Cherokee Nation. How will the Indian country read that decision? We'll talk about that and more with Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. when we come forward here on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable. All month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we're your girls. Won't you know that we love you?
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-444-2013. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-444-2013. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-444-2013. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-444-2013 or biglou.com.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Chuck Hoskin Jr., who's the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation. We are talking about the historic appointment of Senator Markwayne Mullin, a member of the Cherokee Nation, to be the new Secretary of Homeland Security. I said a moment ago I want to ask Chief Hoskin how Indian Nation, Indian country, is going to process or is processing the fact that this historic appointment of one of their own to be in charge of Homeland Security, it's a big deal, how they're processing that it's a Republican president who made that appointment. Not a Democrat. Before I get to that point, though, I do want to ask you this, Chief, and I think you probably are fully aware of this. We had Congressman Al Green on this program not long ago. He's the one, of course, that held up the sign during Donald Trump's recent State of the Union address that said black people are not apes. That was in response to Donald Trump posting that video that depicted the Obamas, Barack and Michelle, as apes. And obviously, you know that racist trope has been around a long time. So Al Green holds up a sign in protest of that because Donald Trump has refused to apologize even since then. He would not apologize for posting that video on Truth Social, again, depicting the Obamas as apes. And so Al Green holds up a sign during that speech that says black people aren't apes. As a result, of holding up that sign, he is escorted out of that speech, but not before Senator Markwayne Mullin tried to grab the sign away from Al Green. Now, Al Green has the right to protest, a member of the House, but it was Markwayne Mullin who reached over. He's the guy that tried to grab and snatch this sign away from Al Green, his silent protest that black people aren't apes. How do black people read that it was your guy, Mr. Mullin, member of Cherokee Nation, that grabbed that sign, tried to grab the sign?
Well, I think people shouldn't be, first of all, they should find the president's tweet or truth or whatever they call it these days abhorrent. I think people who will admit it will say that was a racist trope that has no place anywhere in society. And Congressman Green had a right to protest. So I don't know how to process that Senator Mullin's reaction. I do know that I know him. And I know him from lots of meetings, lots of discussions. I consider him a friend. I think he will take into his job as Secretary of DHS not the impulse to react perhaps hastily. I think he'll be very thoughtful, and that's based on my direct experience with him.
When you talk to him again, you tell him that black people were none too happy, many of us, about him trying to snatch that sign, number one, and you tell him he's welcome to come on this program to talk to our community about why he felt the need to try to snatch the sign out of Al Green's hands. But he's welcome on this program anytime. Pass that on to him when you talk to him. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr., I do want to give him a chance to answer the question I posed a moment ago, which is how Indian country is processing the fact that it was, in fact, a Republican who made this historic appointment. Let me read one comment from one listener with regard to that question that we're going to let him answer in a moment. Tavis, this is an old playbook. Trump's under heat for his inhumane immigration policy and the murder of fellow citizens. So what do? They appoint a person of color, a member of a culture associated with oppression and marginalization for cover. They are the ones who will use DEI for illegit purposes. That's what one listener thinks. We'll see what the chief has to say about that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The BLM Center for Black Power is a hub for Black activism in the city of Los Angeles, a standalone nonprofit affiliated with Black Lives Matter LA. The venue is home to live events, meetings, and organizing drives for Black-led community-based organizations. It is also the base of operations for Black Lives Matter LA. Built on what used to be a nuisance property owned by an arms dealer, the BLM Center for Black Power is in the heart of Leimert Park and has opened its doors to everything from youth organizers to toy drives to film screenings and community town hall meetings. To make a donation or make a request, please visit blmla.org. That's blmla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything! The Capital One Saver card is at table 27 and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu!
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
Just put a finer point on this in the 4 minutes I have left with Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. I had to go back and remind myself of this because it was a few weeks ago and I sort of forgot. But just, again, as a finer point, Mr. Markwayne Mullin, Senator Markwayne Mullin, about to be the new Secretary of Homeland Security, was not seated anywhere near Al Green during that speech. He was seated multiple rows away. He came from multiple rows over to Al Green to try to snatch the sign. That's like coming off the field, coming off the sideline and getting into a scrum on the field. You're not even in the play. So he walks rows over to Al Green to snatch the sign. After the speech, he posted on his social media that the Democratic Party was frustrating him. He said there's a level of decorum expected during the State of the Union address. And during the video, he called out several Democrats. And then he said in the video, "I cannot stand Green." Those are his words. I cannot stand Al Green. I'll leave it there. Take it as you will for what it's worth. But that's what your new Homeland Security Secretary did and said about a black congressman named Al Green. I'll leave it there. Last word goes to you, Chief Hoskin Jr. How is Indian country processing that it was, in fact, a Republican, all that said, who made this historic appointment?
Well, I think, first I can't speak for all of Indian country, but from my perspective, I don't think the president chose Senator Mullin to add diversity to his ranks, or even for the reason that the commenter that you read earlier said, which is some sort of cover. That's a real thing in American politics. I think in this instance, though, if people will research it, the two have a pretty deep friendship. And so I think that's part of what motivated the president. I think if Senator Mullin was on here, he would tell you, hey, I'm 100% in line with the president. And that I think probably also weighs in. I think the way most Native Americans look at it, certainly the way I look at it, is we are glad to see more representation in government. We want to see competent government. We want to see government that is as good as the American people. And, elections help decide that. But insofar as the current immigration policy is concerned, I think I'm happy that we have a Native American that I know that I've worked well with as a tribal chief. Then what I've seen over the course of the past year, which has been chaotic, it has been ICE agents that have shot people, and it's on camera, and we can see what we see with our own eyes.
Yep.
And we've got a now former DHS secretary who's made herself a star on commercials. That's not who I know that's not who Markwayne Mullin is in terms of that sort of showboating and chaos. So I think that we're glad to see representation, and I'm optimistic that he'll improve things.
I appreciate that. I mean, what I said earlier, when you talk to him again, please let him know he's welcome on this nationally syndicated program to speak to this audience about what his plans are for Homeland Security, and even to address the Al Green situation. We would love to hear from him directly. But in the meantime, we thank our friend and brother, Chuck Hoskin Jr., Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation. He always takes our phone calls when we ask him on the program. An honor to have gotten his insights on what we can expect in the days to come from this new Chief of Homeland Security, Secretary of Homeland Security, if and when he is approved, and it seems like he will be. Chief, all the best to you. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Good to have you on. In our second hour, a number of personal reflections, including yours truly. We will start, of course, as we do every Monday and Thursday, with Dr. Cornel West. We'll be joined later in that hour two, by two of the speakers at the services this weekend for Reverend Jackson, Rabbi Stephen B. Jacobs, and Father Michael Pfleger. It is an hour of commentary and reflection about the life and legacy of Jesse Jackson Sr. post these services, and everybody seems to have had an opinion. Stick around for hour two when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. New York and 23 other states are suing to block President Trump's new tariffs, saying he's sidestepping a recent Supreme Court ruling. Black New York Attorney General Letitia James.
Now the president has chosen a different route to accomplish the same unlawful, illegal, and unconstitutional goal.
Attorneys General argue the levies are unlawful and drive up costs, citing data shows Americans are paying more of the burden. The DOJ is preparing to offer plea deals to about a dozen defendants in a mob-linked illegal poker case that also includes several NBA figures. More than 30 people were indicted last year, including Heat guard Terry Rozier, Blazers coach Chauncey Billups, and former player Damon Jones. And Apple Music is rolling out new AI transparency tags to flag songs, videos, and artwork created with artificial intelligence. Labels and distributors must disclose AI use, and if it's not listed, it assumes none. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Head to Waba Grill weekdays after 3 p.m. for their $5 happy hour and try their new Chili Crisp dumplings. Bold, crunchy, and tossed in a fiery crisp, paired with a premium Waba beverage drink like their authentic Thai tea. Get both for just $5 only at Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers beat the New York Knicks Sunday without LeBron. He's got an elbow injury. Luka Doncic dropped 35 points in the Lakers' 110-97 win at Crypto.com. The Clippers play the Knicks tonight at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Clippers are 31-32. A win tonight puts them at 500 for the first time since November 3rd when they were 3-3. Congratulations to the UCLA women's basketball team. They won their second straight Big Ten Conference Tournament championship Sunday. UCLA dominated Iowa 96-45. 25 straight wins for the Bruins, who are now 31-1. Kiki Rice had 15 points and 8 assists. Rice was voted tournament MVP. The Rams had the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. They signed 25-year-old Trent McDuffie Sunday to a 4-year extension worth $124 million. The Rams got McDuffie in a trade Wednesday with Kansas City. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Warning, evacuation in progress. Leave the building.
It's a total takeover.
That's what I want.
On Friday, March 27th, KBLA Talk 1580 belongs to the women.
Are you ready?
All day long, from 6 in the morning to midnight, the mic belongs to powerful, accomplished women, and we are not letting go. Nothing but the voices of women who inspire, challenge, and move us forward. It's the women of KBLA Talk 1580, sun up to sundown. I'm Dominique DePrima, and I'll anchor the day with a 3-hour live panel from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the state of black women in LA, followed by women talking to women all day long about the issues that matter most. Our hosts for the day include Jill Monroe, Adrian Shropshire, Dr. Melina Abdullah, Angela Reddick-Wright, Raquel Graham, Angelique Francis, Tasha Thomas, Dr. Shalonda Crawford, Dion Raymond, and a couple of special guest hosts for the day, that we'll be announcing soon. This is Women's History Month, and we're not just celebrating it, we're amplifying it. Join us Friday, March 27th on KBLA Talk 1580, where women take over all day, all night. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 and all of our socials for the rundown. You don't want to miss a single word. And happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
To my ladies, I'll show you how to work that. Go.
Dr. West has a way of choosing the right walk-on song, and that is an appropriate track for this hour. On the backside of this hour, we'll be joined by two of our friends, Father Michael Pfleger and Rabbi Stephen Jacobs, who spoke, offered prayers and tributes at the funeral services for Reverend Jackson last weekend in Chicago. Dr. West and I traveled together to Chicago. We traveled together, we did media together, we sat together through that entire 6-hour-long service on Friday, listening to all these presentations, ostensibly, underline that word, ostensibly, in honor of Reverend Jackson, but there were some moments that got our attention, some moments where I think the train jumped the track, and it wasn't just Cornel West and Tavis Smiley. Apparently everybody's been popping off in social media about these services. Everybody has an opinion about who, what, why, and where of those services. I mentioned earlier, I read a piece on TMZ today, headline, Jesse Jackson Jr. slams Obama, Biden for Trump remarks at father's funeral. So this thing has made TMZ, y'all. Everybody has an opinion about these services, and I'm anxious to hear Dr. West's reflections and those of Rabbi Jacobs and Father Michael Pfleger on the backside of this hour. But as always, as we do every Monday and Thursday, top of the second hour, we are pleased to welcome back to this program Dr. Cornel West. Hey, Doc, how are you today, man?
Oh, my brother, I'm just so glad we made it back safe. But that time spent with you and my beloved wife, Anahita, was really quite magnificent and memorable, even though the funeral that we went to, which was on that Friday, Saturday, I think was different, but on Friday, though, brother, oh, Lord, have mercy. You know, Brother Tavis, funerals are really about remembrance of the dead and resilience for the living.
Mm-hmm.
And in a sick, spiritually sick empire, you wonder to what degree that sickness has begun to penetrate so deeply into the black community, so that it's difficult for us to actually bury our dead with a high level of respect and dignity.
Mm.
And I was so glad to see the family. I mean, on Saturday, the family was magnificent, you know, and Brother Pfleger's prayer was so strong, and Isaiah Thomas, I thought, was very, very strong as well. But to have not just the presidents, but Kamala Harris, the politicians come in and act as if they in some kind of Democratic Party convention, and Kamala talking about "I told you so" about Trump, and no, Brother Jesse's body in the coffin, sister. Please. And the same was true, of course, with Clinton and Biden. Nobody really had too much of an expectation, and they met the low expectation. They went on much too long. Each one was supposed to speak 15, 20 minutes, and they went 35 and 40. And, of course, with Brother Barack Obama, man, it was just a downright disgrace, man. Because, of course, he's brilliant in terms of his performance, but you got Jeremiah Wright sitting there, man, the pastor who baptized his daughter, married him to Michelle, was his major marriage counselor, and he could not even acknowledge him, couldn't even make any effort to acknowledge him being there. You see, that's a disgrace, man. And so what happens is it takes the focus away from the remembrance of Brother Jesse and the resilience of the family. That is the focus of a funeral. But no, it gets turned into a superficial spectacle of narcissists who go up and talk about themselves in public with high visibility at a moment when they ought to be humble and surrendering themselves to the legacy and the remembrance of Jesse Jackson Sr. And that's what burned me up. But it was just another sign of the spiritual sickness, not just in America, but in Black America too. We have to take responsibility for making sure that our dead are treated with respect and dignity and not just pawns on some political table.
I got to work on my friend, get him to come out of his shell and tell me how he really feels when I ask him a question. Just getting started with Dr. West, I do want to probe this notion he raises. I think there's something to it. This is not the first time I've sat in a funeral where I think, not unlike Dr. West, that the train sort of jumped the tracks at various times. So what about this notion that we have lost the capacity, we've lost the ability, we've lost the humility when it comes to burying our dead with respect and with dignity? When did that train jump the track? We'll talk about that and a great deal more with Dr. Cornel West when we come forward with our thoughts on the services honoring Reverend Jesse Jackson Jr., Reverend Jackson Sr., that is. We'll talk about Jr. as well. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening. Charitable listening. It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Tavis Smiley. They say time flies when you're having fun. The founding members cohort of The Art of Conversation is almost over. Hard to believe. It's been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now, the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, do not hesitate. Go to TavisTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavisTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer. Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline nasal spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line.
But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Dr. Cornel West, offering our thoughts and reflections on the services that were in Chicago over last weekend, Friday and Saturday, funeralizing the Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. Doc made a point a moment ago, in case you've just tuned in, that somewhere along the way, we have started missing the mark when it comes to burying our dead with respect and dignity. And he's right. There were times at which it seemed like it was a Democratic Party rally. And I guess on some level you expect, Democratic Party commentary, shout out, connection, given the way that Jesse worked inside that party to change it for the better. But again, there were times it was cringeworthy. There was some cringe. That's my word. There were too many cringeworthy moments in that service for me. Dr. West has unpacked some of them already, but I want to circle back to this notion of how we got to a place in situations, circumstances like these. This really ought to be a sacred service. And there were points in that service it did not feel sacred to me at all, Doc, but I digress. How did the train jump the track, man?
Well, you think of the funerals of Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Fannie Lou Hamer, Ella Baker. People were able to zero in on their greatness, their magnanimity, their service to black people, their service to oppressed people around the world. But once both the market sets in on the one hand, and once you become so assimilated, almost an appendage or a constitutive element of the Democratic Party, then it becomes, or even just the U.S. Political system as a whole. I think of the funeral of Coretta Scott King.
Oh, I'm going there. Go ahead.
And Harry Belafonte disinvited. Why? Because George Bush could come. But also our great artists, Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin. I mean, thank God for Smokey Robinson talking about Aretha from his heart. But you get folk up there acting as if this is some kind of performance at the Apollo rather than something in the context of a church to send away a homegoing and a homecoming of somebody we deeply love. You got to raise the question, where is the love? That's the question of Donny Hathaway and Roberta Flack. And admiration ain't the same thing as love, brother. Now, when you listen to the Jackson family speak, you felt the love. You listen to Isaiah Thomas speak, you felt the love. You listen to Father Pfleger pray, you felt the love. That's what funerals are about, man. They're about that love. Yeah. John Coltrane's funeral, when the jazz musicians got up, they wasn't acting like they playing at Birdland. They were playing from their heart because they love Train, man. They love Coltrane.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Coretta Scott King. I wanted to go there, so let's just go there again. It is the case that, for those who recall this, Harry Belafonte had made some comments about George W. Bush back in the day. His comments were spot on, frankly, as Mr. B tended to be, spot on, told the truth about George W. Bush. But when Coretta Scott King passes, the King family, not casting aspersion on them, a decision was made to allow the President of the United States to come speak at Coretta Scott King's funeral. Now, George W. Bush, in so many ways, was pushing an agenda, as we all know, that was antithetical to the best interest of black people. This is the same George Bush that left black folk to die on rooftops in Hurricane Katrina. And for whatever reason, the King family decided that it was important to have George W. Bush appear at that service. And the trade-off was that Harry Belafonte would not be speaking at that service if George Bush was going to come. And so Belafonte got disinvited. This is Dr. King's longtime friend. He raised all the money for the movement. He paid for the service. When King died, he paid for King's funeral. He raised all the money for that. And now he's disinvited to speak at Coretta's funeral to make room for George W. Bush. I was sick about that then, and all these years later, Doc and I are still sick about that decision to push Belafonte out of the way to make room for George W. Bush. That's number one. To Doc's point about, my point actually, about the point that these services are supposed to be sacred, and Doc, presented, of course, in his own way. There's a point when Joe Biden gets up. Joe Biden is dropping cuss words all during his talk. I mean, just completely lost sight of the fact that you're standing on a sacred space. You at somebody's pulpit, man. You standing in the pulpit, and you dropping cuss words here and there throughout. He ain't dropping F-bombs, but if you heard the speech, he's using saucy and spicy language, as Joe Biden tends to do. He's that guy from Scranton, but that guy don't need to be speaking with that kind of language at the pulpit in a black church. So Biden is totally unaware of apparently where he is and how he ought to be presenting. But the flip side of all this, Doc, and I've seen commentary about this, as I said earlier, everybody's got a thought about it. If you know that, and I'm talking now about the TMZ piece, the TMZ piece about Jesse Jr., you can read it for yourself. I don't typically read a bunch of comments, but there's a lot of commentary, a lot of comments under under this post about Jesse. It's not his post. It's a TMZ post about Jesse and what he had to say on Friday and Saturday about these presidents who took up all the time, and whether or not they really knew his father, and whether or not they framed his father properly. And so there are comments I'm reading about, the family. Why would the King family make that decision? Don't you bear some responsibility for pushing Belafonte out the way and letting George W. Bush come? To the Jackson family, do they bear responsibility for letting all those presidents come? Now, I'm not naive here. It's Jesse Jackson Sr. You want to send him off the right way. You want him to be treated with the regard. You want to frame his homegoing in a proper way. He has earned the respect of presidents coming to his service. I get that. But there's a price you pay for that. And the price you pay for it is that these presidents and politicians like Kamala and others are going to do whatever they do in the way that they do it. And it just bothered me. These presidents took too much liberty. I think the problem with these presidents, Doc, is that they do stuff and nobody tells them to shut up. They are so used to being. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but I think Markwayne Thomas hit the nail on the head when he said, no, these presidents feel entitled. This is true for the president of Colombia, too.
That's right.
He's sitting up there going on and on and on and on and on, talking about the history of Chicago and all of this. No, these presidents are so entitled. They're so narcissistic. They get up there and talk about themselves. It's only Jesse in relation to themselves, what Jesse has done for them. It's not so much what they've done for Jesse and how Jesse's movement opened the doors for them. Jesse didn't do it all by himself. We know that.
That's right.
He was part of a movement. He organized. He mobilized. He brought people together. He served. He sacrificed. He was willing to live under death threats. That's what opened those doors. Are they doing the same thing? No. And let's just be honest about it on a deep level, man. All those presidents of war criminals, man, they dropping bombs on innocent people during their presidency that Jesse Jackson Sr. was fighting against. That's why I was glad to see Jesse Jackson Jr. say, wait a minute. He had to put pressure on you all to do X and Y, and oftentimes you didn't even do that. So they have a right to be there. But Jesse Jackson Jr. told him explicitly, don't make this a political rally.
That's right.
Focus on my daddy.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it. And that's what upsets me. But I don't want to downplay the magnificent words and the heartfelt presentations of the family. Each member of the Jackson family, they were just so eloquent.
No question.
But that was primarily on Saturday.
Yeah. No question about that. They were eloquent. And Ashleigh, that youngest child, Lord have mercy. The way that the immediate family embraced her when she comes along years later. Beautiful. And the words that she had to say about Jesse loving her out loud, that got me, man. My daddy loved me out loud. Indeed, Lord. Jesse did. Her thing was just powerful in ways I can't even describe.
Lord. But that doctor, Dr. Jacqueline the second.
Oh, yeah. Jackie's tough, man. She's tough. Baby Jackie.
Oh,
she's tough. She's tough. No question about it. Let me circle back to what I said earlier, though. When we talk about how we bury our dead, ought to be burying our dead with respect and dignity. My question is simply this: when do we learn the lesson of inviting these dignitaries into spaces if we really want to bury our dead with respect and dignity when we know their playbook, we know how they're going to show up. So do we have any complicity in inviting them to be there in the first place? Because we want this to be all that and then some. So you want the big wigs, you want the big names to show up. But what role do we play? What complicity do we have in setting ourselves up for this kind of disappointment?
Yeah, I think it's a risk you take, though, brother.
It is.
It is a risk you take. On the one hand, as you rightly said, to have all the presidents there is an acknowledgement of our dear brother Jesse Jackson Sr. as a world historical figure with global scope. But you take a risk.
Yeah.
They can get there and hijack your event, and thank God the musicians. I do want to acknowledge the musicians, though.
Oh, yes.
After you get all of the superficiality of the presidents and vice presidents, then here comes Jennifer. Then here comes, what's the name of the sister?
Leandria Johnson. Leandria can go, man.
Lord,
Leandria. Yeah, she can go, yeah.
Oh, Jennifer Hudson and the choir was magnificent. So because you need something real. You got to keep it real. You don't need no superficial folk up there, no fakery and phonery that we get out of political speeches. You need something real at funeral. Thank God the music was real, and thank God you had moments in which folk tried to keep it real for our dear brother Jesse.
The irony of the day is that Dr. West and I did a lot of media while we were there, and we intended to do that because we wanted to make sure that when we showed up that we had a chance to express ourselves, and it didn't take long. The minute that we got out of the car and started walking up to the church and the media saw us, whoosh, there are photos that are posted online of the media just descending on Dr. West and yours truly. So we did a sort of impromptu press conference outside of the church before we walked in. And then we went inside and did more media. We had promised, some people that we would talk to them. Of course, I went straight to the black media. That's my way. I told everybody. I mean, we got caught by ABC and NBC and all the networks outside, but that wasn't the plan. I was going straight inside that media room, inside the church, to talk to black media, and that's exactly what we did. We went in and made our rounds, talking to the black media. But earlier that morning, the first
WVON.
That's right. That's right.
Roland.
That's
we
right.
did a number of the black media.
We did black. We did BET. We did Black Entertainment Television. We did all the black media.
That's right.
Yeah.
BET,
but we started our day. Doc and I started early in the morning at the #1 station in Chicago, WGN TV. So we went to WGN, and we were on the set, and some of you saw the interview. It's posted everywhere. We were asked what we expected that day, and they were all excited. All the presidents are going to be there, this, that, and the other. Tavis, what do you and Dr. West expect? I said, well, let me, at the risk of, I don't want to disrespect you, but let me flip your question if I can and tell you what I'm hoping that we don't get today. And I said, as you recall, Doc, I said, I hope that we don't sit through 6 hours of speeches and end up witnessing Jesse Jackson Sr. not being properly framed, not being properly, defined. And that was my fear, Doc, and I'm sad to say that in some ways that's a lot of what we got. He just didn't get properly framed, I think, on Friday.
No, I think we had to wait till Saturday. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Anytime you put a giant and a genius, an icon, and a titan into the grave, you want to frame it. You want to contextualize it. You want to connect him to his precious mama Helen and his father Noah and stepfather Charles and his grandmother Matilda. You want to ground him in King's legacy. You want to connect him to Samuel Proctor. You want to note the ways in which he was so unique with his own style as a country preacher with Ken and Adderley and all the other jazz musicians, let alone Bobby Blue Bland, who was one of his favorite artists. He comes from us. He comes from a great black people. Once he is no longer put in the ground with dignity, it's a violation of the black people who produced him. It ain't just about him.
I'm looking at a bunch of comments coming in. Not surprising here. We got about 90 seconds left, and Doc's going to stick around. We'll be joined by Rabbi Stephen B. Jacobs and Father Michael Pfleger here in a moment. They spoke at the services, and Pfleger is the one.
Brother Jacobs did a good job. Brother Jacobs.
Great job.
Brother Jacobs did a good job. He did.
He'll be here momentarily. Father Pfleger, as you know, is the one that Obama, trying to be funny, called the crazy priest. And that rankled me when he called him a crazy priest. I didn't like that at all, trying to be funny but inappropriate, particularly at this service where he had given the prayer, and then you call him a crazy priest. I digress on that for now. In these quick 60 seconds here, I'm looking at many questions and comments coming in, Doc. Here's one. Dr. West, are we witnessing the beginning, as you would say, of the Santa Clausification of Jesse Jackson Sr.?
Beautifully put. I don't know where that's coming from, but that's beautifully put.
Yep.
And what do you do when you Santa Clausify people? You present them as if they always walked around with a smile, no longer a threat to the status quo, with all these nice little toys in his bag, rather than someone who was willing to give their life and every ounce of their energy in service of the freedom of a black people that the great Donny Hathaway was singing about.
Yeah. No, this listener obviously knows Dr. West's work. He introduced that phrase. I remember it very well years ago. He was invited to give the preeminent lecture every year in South Africa about Nelson Mandela. He was the Nelson Mandela lecturer. And with Mandela sitting on the front row, Dr. West leaned in to this notion of the Santa Clausification of Nelson Mandela. He was being tamed and deodorized and sanitized and manicured. And Doc laid into that with Mandela sitting on the front row, not knowing how he was going to respond. But afterwards, Mandela made a beeline for Doc, gave him a huge bear hug, and thanked him for wrestling with this notion of him being Santa Clausified by media and by others. And so that listener obviously is familiar with Dr. West's work and raised that question about whether or not we're starting to see the same thing now when it comes to Jesse L. Jackson Sr. When we come forward, Dr. West sticks around. We'll be joined by two of the speakers at the service, Rabbi Jacobs and Father Michael Pfleger. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. Forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. U.S. operations in Iran enter a second week, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio calling it an extraordinary operation.
This regime in Iran has less missiles, has less launchers, their factories work less, and their navy is being eviscerated.
President Trump attended a dignified transfer of 6 soldiers. A federal judge has dismissed a $1 billion lawsuit filed by Kendrick Johnson's parents in Georgia over his 2013 death, citing immunity protections and procedural issues. Johnson's family, long disputing the official findings and alleging a cover-up, has already filed an appeal. And Live Nation and the DOJ have reached a settlement in their antitrust case after testimony threatened a breakup with Ticketmaster. The 2010 merger was accused of creating an illegal monopoly that inflated ticket prices. Live Nation will now reportedly pay about $200 million in damages. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Head to Waba Grill weekdays after 3 p.m. for their $5 happy hour and try their new Chili Crisp dumplings. Bold, crunchy, and toss in a fiery crisp paired with a premium Waba beverage drink like their authentic Thai tea. Get both for just $5 only at Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers beat the New York Knicks Sunday without LeBron. He's got an elbow injury. Luka Doncic dropped 35 points in the Lakers' 110-97 win at Crypto.com. The Clippers play the Knicks tonight at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Clippers are 31-32. A win tonight puts them at 500 for the first time since November 3rd when they were 3-3. Congratulations to the UCLA women's basketball team. They won their second straight Big Ten Conference Tournament championship Sunday. UCLA dominated Iowa 96-45. 25 straight wins for the Bruins, who are now 31-1. Kiki Rice had 15 points and 8 assists. Rice was voted tournament MVP. The Rams had the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. They signed 25-year-old Trent McDuffie Sunday to a 4-year extension worth $124 million. The Rams got McDuffie in a trade Wednesday with Kansas City. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Angie. Did you know a billboard can save a baby's life? It's true. You can make a difference by helping us spread the pro-life message to reach those who are struggling with an unplanned pregnancy. Please make a gift today. Visit prolifeacrossamerica.org.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The midterm elections are upon us. It is voting season once again. Common Cause's motto is fighting for the democracy we deserve. In service of that goal, Common Cause puts its state and national policy expertise, massive network of grassroots supporters, and nonpartisan approach into action to strengthen our democracy against the challenges we face today. They work at every level of government on priorities that impact each of our lives, like defending the right to vote, limiting big money's influence on our elections, holding public officials accountable, and more. Common Cause is a nonpartisan grassroots organization dedicated to upholding the core values of American democracy. They seek to empower all people to make their voices heard in the political process. This election may be the most important one ever. If you'd like to make a donation or volunteer in service to the Constitution, please visit commoncause.org. That's commoncause.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
All right, we continue our reflections on the homegrown services of Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. last Friday and Saturday in Chicago. In a moment, we'll hear the voices of our friends and brothers, Rabbi Stephen B. Jacobs, who presented, as our dear brother, Father Michael Pfleger, did as well. St. Sabina on the south side of Chicago. Somebody asked me during the break about the services, and I was saying to them that this thing went so long on Friday, thanks to the president's eating up all the time. It went so long that there were persons who were supposed to speak and perform who you never saw. You did not see our friend and brother John Nichols from The Nation magazine, who was actually on the program. You did not see Congressman Chuy Garcia. You did not hear Marvin. You did hear Marvin Sapp. You did not hear B.B. Winans. He was singing Stand. You did not hear Miss Jackie, Jesse's widow. She got cut Friday. You did not hear from Ashleigh, the youngest daughter. You heard her on Saturday, but she did not speak on Friday. You did not hear Santita Jackson sing To God Be the Glory. You did not hear Congressman Jonathan L. Jackson speak. You did not hear Marvin Winans sing Let the Church Say Amen. I raised that, Dr. West, right quick, because most of those speakers I just mentioned, many of them are family members who cut themselves out of the program on Friday because the presidents went so long.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, though, brother. That's where you have the triumph of political spectacle over spiritual substance. And funerals are really about spiritual substance in the end. Now, presidents, if they humble themselves, which is almost oxymoronic, but if they humble themselves, they can become part of a funeral
Sure.
Event. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But even the way they walked in, though, you remember how they waited and waited and waited?
Mm-hmm.
They shut down all of the different streets, people coming in. There were thousands of folk outside that couldn't get in because of the Secret Service. It shut everything down. Then they wait and wait and wait and wait. Then they walk in like it's some kind of parade or something. No, this is Jesse Jackson Sr.'s day. This is their family's day. Y'all sit in and sit your behinds down and be humble enough to become part of a service that is tied to wrestling with the remembrance of Jesse and the resilience of his family bouncing back.
No, Doc is right. There were thousands of folk outside who did not get in because Secret Service shut things down once the presidents got in, and people had to turn around and go home. It was sad because there were still seats inside up in the rafters in the 200s for these people to get in, but they did not. I'm watching my time here. Michael Pfleger, Father Mike, how are you, sir?
Great, sir. Great to see you and Doc this weekend.
It was great to see you. Rabbi Jacobs, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing fine. I'm on with my friends. I feel pretty secure. I'll tell you one thing. When I heard the president speak, somebody once said to me, Rabbi, if you don't strike oil in 10 minutes, stop drilling.
I like that. If you don't strike oil in 10 minutes, stop drilling. Brother Jacobs. So, Rabbi, my time is getting tight. Let me just ask you right quick. We saw your presentation. It was amazing. You laid really hard on that notion that Jesse Jackson Sr. was not an anti-Semite, as he was called by some many, many years ago. Tell me what you thought your assignment was that day in your prayer, in your presentation, and whether or not you think you met the mark, because we think you did. But what did you make of your remarks?
They didn't ask me to do anything specific. They trusted me for a long relationship. So when I sat down, I knew what I wanted to say. I made a promise to Reverend Jackson over 2 decades ago that I would tell the real story of what happened in that interview in South Carolina. So I was really comfortable standing up and telling my truth, which is shared not only by numbers of people, but finally saying that Jesse Jackson was not an anti-Semite. And I could have gone on and on for what he's done for the black community, the Jewish community, the Muslim community, the Asian community, and there's no fooling around with these facts.
Yep. Father Mike, you were the leadoff when it came to the prayers. Father Mike Pfleger of St. Sabina was up first, followed by a rabbi and our friend Otis Moss III. Who pastors the church now that Jeremiah Wright used to pastor Trinity. Jeremiah was there. Dr. West said earlier, Obama did not give Jeremiah Wright a shout out as he was shouting out other ministers. He did not mention Jeremiah Wright. Dr. West already laid on that point. But you were the lead-off prayer giver that day. Your reflections on that particular moment in the program, again, that you initiated.
Yeah, thanks. And first, let me just quickly say, Rabbi, I so appreciated the comments you made about that, because I have so hated how anti-Semitism was weaponized against Reverend Jackson for so many years, and I just so appreciate your comments that day. But to answer your question, Tavis, is that absolutely is that I wanted to do a couple of things. I wanted to just say first, I repent for the fact how he was not appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loves a person when they're dead.
Mm-hmm.
And he was not appreciated. He was not acknowledged. As he should have been. He was never invited to the White House under Barack Obama. And I think so I want to understand that. But I also wanted to say that understand these doors were open, including the Oval Office. I want to make sure that we understand that. And that he never stopped pushing. One of the things I love about Reverend Jackson, his consistency. He was a long-distance runner from 1968 till the day that he gave his last breath. He consistently stayed for pushing for rights, for justice, for equity, for equality. And I just wanted to publicly thank him for that.
Yep. So to your point, let me follow you, Father Mike. It is true that Barack Obama never invited Jesse to the White House in 8 years. He ain't the only one. who didn't get invited. I ain't gonna call no names, Cornel West. I ain't gonna call no names, Tavis Smiley. There are a lot of folk who didn't get invited over that 8-year period. But how do you juxtapose the fact that he shut Jesse out for 8 years while he was president, but then he shows up to eulogize him? How do we make sense of that, Father Pfleger?
Well, I don't think you can make sense of it. I just think, I so hurt when we stumble over, and that's why I appreciate the rabbi. We stumble over truths in order for pomp and circumstance, and there's no reason. I mean, you shut somebody out. And I think Mrs. Jackson was certainly clear about it. And Mrs. Jackson is very sure about it, as many of the children are. I understand inviting all the presidents, including President Trump, to come.
Yeah.
But the part of me is saying, we got to stop just making about perception and images, and just deal with truth. I really think the only person up there who really did have a friendship with Reverend Jackson was Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
He stood by Reverend Clinton, counseled him, and stood by him through all of his trials.
Yeah.
And I think, if it was me, I would have said that's the only person that probably should have been invited. But, and again, when you do that, you did what you just said in the beginning, Tavis. Then all of a sudden, you're turning a homegoing service and celebration of a life reverend, and you have this entitlement of them coming in and shaking hands and the other kind of stuff like it was some rally.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about them. It was about Reverend Jackson and his family.
Yeah. Rabbi Jacobs, right quick.
Let us not forget that when Bill Clinton, when it was exposed his relationship with Monica Lewinsky, President Clinton and his wife, the first person to ask them to come and comfort and give resources in terms of faith was Reverend Jackson.
Yeah.
He was the first one that the Clintons called to the White House. I'll never forget that day in August. And can I just add one thing?
Sure.
We're all used to the jokes about a rabbi and a priest walking into a bar. I wanted to switch that. There were two friends sitting at a bar, and one says, "Do you love me?" And the other one says, "Of course I love you." And then he says, "Do you know my pain?" And he says, "Of course not. I don't know your pain." He says, "Then you don't love me." The four of us on this call, Tavis, Father, Dr. West, and I know each other's pain, and that's why we're drawn to one another to explain the pain, the great pain over the ages in the black community, the Jewish community, and other communities. Us being together gives us indeed hope.
And that is why he's Rabbi Stephen B. Jacobs. He's awfully good at what he does, as you can tell. When we come forward, you heard from Father Pfleger a moment ago mention perceptions and images. I want to ask him how he processed Obama leaning in at one point, trying to be funny and referring to him as a crazy priest. Now, I'm told that Dr. West and I appeared on TV a number of times. They saw us in the audience, and the networks, took leeway, as they have the right to, show us on television, although we didn't know we were being seen at that time. But at one point, I'm told that Dr. West leaned in to say something to me, and there was a frown on my face, and I think it was probably at that moment when Obama referred to Pfleger as a crazy priest. And if Doc and I could have gotten out of our seats and ran up on that stage, we would have. Of course, Secret Service would have given us a beat down. We ain't stuck on stupid. We couldn't get up on stage. But we didn't like the fact that Obama referred to our friend and brother as a crazy priest. But more to the point, I don't know how Pfleger processed that. They did put his face up on the big screen, and I saw an interesting look on his face, but I want to hear from him directly how he processed Obama referring to him as a crazy priest. And if you didn't hear Bill Clinton tell the story, back to Rabbi Jacobs' point, Clinton tells the story of when that Monica Lewinsky thing happened, that Jesse called the White House and Bill answered, President Clinton answered the phone in the private residence. He said, "I didn't call to talk to you. Can you put Chelsea on the phone?" He wanted to talk to Chelsea. And the Clintons never forgot Jesse calling to talk to Chelsea to help her navigate her way through this moment that her parents had put her into. It was a powerful story told by Bill Clinton. More with Cornel West, Stephen Jacobs, and Michael Pfleger when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March,
March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable. All month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we're your girls. Won't you know that we love you?
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
All right, Father Mike, Obama, trying to be funny, called you a crazy priest. We saw your face up on the big screen when they put the camera on you. You seemed a little discomforted, but that's just my read of you, knowing you for as many years as I've known you. But tell me, how did you process that moment?
Well, it was disappointing because, you know, when a friend like if it was you, Tavis, or if it was Cornel saying that crazy Pfleger,
yeah,
you know, because we have a relationship,
right?
So we can speak like that. What was concerned to me and was awkward to me was that you were saying that as if we had that kind of a relationship, and we don't.
Yeah,
I haven't talked to Barack Obama since he left the White House. I didn't talk to him when he was in the White House until the very last 2 months, when I happened to be at a payday loan meeting at the old White House, and somebody said that the president heard you were in the building and wanted to see you. I never got invited to the White House either.
Yeah.
But so what bothered me was, again, what I mentioned, image and perception, as though that we have some kind of a relationship, which we don't. And so that was awkward for me. And, you know, you don't want to set up and say, wait a minute, I don't know you like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, I was also still hoping and praying that he was going to mention Dr. Wright.
Yeah.
And had that happened at the end, and before he was walking away, and I think I would have stood up and said, "What about Dr. Wright?"
Yeah. I hear you, Dr. West. What do you recall about that moment? You and I were seated next to each other when we turned to look at each other after Obama referred to our brother as a crazy priest.
Anybody messing with my dear brother, Father Pfleger, puts the fire inside of me.
That's great.
Yeah. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is, but especially when it's somebody who has disrespected the great Jeremiah Wright year after year after year. And there's something about the special relationship with your pastor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who's with you in the midnight hour, put you in the water, your children in the water, married you. And you can't even say hello, shake his hand, or acknowledge you. That's a Keith Sweat moment. Something just ain't right.
It's a Keith Sweat moment. Something just ain't right. When we come forward, our remaining moments with West and Jacobs and Pfleger, I'll give each of them 30 or 45 seconds in their own words to define quickly what they do believe that Jesse Jackson's legacy will be in the months and years to come. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
He's the son of a school teacher and Navy veteran who built a company worth billions and walked away from it. Tom Steyer, pledging to give away half of everything he earned to charity and fight for Californians. So when out-of-state corporations weren't paying their fair share of taxes, Tom Steyer led the fight for Prop 39 and won, earning California billions of dollars for our schools. Tom took on big oil to stop them polluting our air and water and smash them. Tom fought for free school lunches so no child goes hungry. Tom Steyer, strong enough to take on the special interests crushing us with the cost of living. As governor, Tom will stop Wall Street from buying up middle-class homes, lower utility rates by 25%, and ban corporate PAC money from our politics. Other politicians talk. Tom Steyer gets it done. Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, that's Cornel West, Rabbi Stephen B. Jacobson, Father Michael Pfleger. So, Pfleger, you had your say at the service. It was a powerful prayer. But again, I think we have our work cut out for us. I said this when Doc West and I were in Chicago this weekend. We appeared on WGN, as you recall. I said then that I was concerned about the way Jesse was going to be framed in the months and years to come. The New York Times jumped out first and got it wrong by suggesting that he was too late to be Dr. King and too early to be Barack Obama. They tried to box him in, which takes away from the unique role that Jesse played in the culture, trying to box him in that way and make a comparison between him and King and him and Obama. That's nonsense. So I am concerned, I must honestly say, about the ways in which we're going to see Jesse Jackson Sr. framed in the months and years to come. What say you about that and how he gets properly framed right quick?
Well, for me, quickly, 4 quick things. One is, number one, the breadth of his leadership and his impact. You had presidents of Congo and South Africa, and you had people and young people from the blocks that were there. That says a whole lot about him. Secondly, long-distance runner. He spent his whole life, he never quit, never gave up. He stayed on the battlefield. Thirdly, he did the Rainbow Coalition. He never moved from the Big Ten idea that black, white, brown, yellow, Muslim, Christian, Jew, young and old, everybody had to be part of the celebration. And lastly, that his mantle falls on each of us now to pick up and continue and make sure we watch how the world will try to define him and make the true man come up.
I love it. Rabbi Jacobs, how do we make sure that Jesse Jackson Sr. gets framed properly in the years to come?
Well, that's up to us. That's the great challenge. You can see that people deprecate Martin Luther King over the ages, and they want to dismiss him, and there are people who want to dismiss Jesse Jackson. There's no way, as long as we're alive and we cooperate with one another, we will stand up to the hatred, we will stand up to the prejudice, we will stand up to those who want to deprecate the powerful message of Jesse Jackson. And that us and who we teach, those that come into our being. My priest on this line, we're both retired. We need to merge together to speak out with Tavis and with Dr. West and make sure that people across this country are not going to take away from the power, the message, and the inspiration of Jesse Jackson.
This is funny. Just to correct the record, Pfleger is not retired just yet, although they've tried many times to retire him.
Well, he's an emeritus. He's a chief stardom. Okay.
What'd you say? What'd you say, Father Mike? What'd you say?
I said I saw that program. I said, there's somebody that I should know. Should I call somebody? What's up?
No, they have tried to retire Pfleger many times at Saints about it, but he's still going strong. He is not as yet retired, and we are all the better for that. But I take the point that Rabbi Jacobs is making. All right, Dr. West, this is your hour, as it is every Monday and Thursday. I've got 2 minutes left. I will yield the balance of that entire 2 minutes to you, sir, for the last word. It's all yours.
No, I just thank God that Brother Pfleger is there after 52 years of unbelievable service. But I think all of us recognize that what sits at the center of Jesse Jackson's witness and his legacy was that he fell in love with a Palestinian Jew named Jesus and decided he was going to follow Jesus. And that meant being a mentoree of a giant named Martin Luther King Jr. And what sits at the center of Jesus and Martin Luther King Jr. is what it means to be free, free to love, free to fight, free to serve, free to sacrifice. and free to die for a beloved community, for a kingdom of God that's bigger than all of us. And Jesse remained true to that in his own way, in his own terms. Of course, he's a cracked vessel like all of us. But it's up to us to keep alive that legacy. And, of course, there's a whole host of different folk we could talk about, from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel to Edward Zaid to Dorothy Day to Philip Barrigan. There's a whole cloud of witnesses, but we need for the younger generation to get beyond spectacle and zero in on substance.
Yeah. Father Michael Pfleger, you put a smile on Jesse's face. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Love you all.
Love you back. Rabbi Jacobs, you did the same thing. You put a smile on Reverend Jackson's face. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Dr. West, you put a smile on my face every Monday and Thursday when you show up at the top of this second hour to share your brilliant insights. I love you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
You put a smile on my face. Love you, brother.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. U.S. operations in Iran enter a second week, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio calling it an extraordinary operation.
This regime in Iran has less missiles, has less launchers, their factories work less, and their navy is being eviscerated.
President Trump attended a dignified transfer of 6 soldiers. A federal judge has dismissed a $1 billion lawsuit filed by Kendrick Johnson's parents in Georgia over his 2013 death, citing immunity protections and procedural issues. Johnson's family, long disputing the official findings and alleging a cover-up, has already filed an appeal. And Live Nation and the DOJ have reached a settlement in their antitrust case after testimony threatened a breakup with Ticketmaster. The 2010 merger was accused of creating an illegal monopoly that inflated ticket prices. Live Nation will now reportedly pay about $200 million in damages. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Head to Waba Grill weekdays after 3 p.m. for their $5 happy hour and try their new chili crisp dumplings. Bold, crunchy, and tossed in a fiery crisp, paired with a premium Waba beverage drink like their authentic Thai tea. Get both for just $5 only at Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers beat the New York Knicks Sunday without LeBron. He's got an elbow injury. Luka Doncic dropped 35 points in the Lakers' 110-97 win at Crypto.com. The Clippers play the Knicks tonight at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Clippers are 31-32. A win tonight puts them at 500 for the first time since November 3rd when they were 3-3. Congratulations to the UCLA women's basketball team. They won their second straight Big Ten Conference Tournament championship Sunday. UCLA dominated Iowa 96-45, 25 straight wins for the Bruins, who are now 31-1. Kiki Rice had 15 points and 8 assists. Rice was voted tournament MVP. The Rams had the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. They signed 25-year-old Trent McDuffie Sunday to a 4-year extension worth $124 million. The Rams got McDuffie in a trade Wednesday with Kansas City. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable. All month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we your girls. Won't you know that we love you?
That David Crawford sounds so good. I hate to step on him. That piece called Renaissance. Let that ride, Miles. Let that ride. I've been waiting for him to get here. He was actually supposed to be here a few weeks ago, and we had some travel issues, and he didn't make it. But we finally got him in studio, and I'll bring him on in just a second here. On the B side of this hour, we'll check in with my colleague, Dr. Nicolai Corte, who covered the Jackson funeral services alongside many other Black journalists I saw in Chicago last week. Ed Gordon was there, Roland Martin, Abby Phillip, everybody was there. Anxious to get Dr. Corte's insights in our last half hour today. But the music you're listening to now is a track called Renaissance, courtesy of flutist, arranger, and Compton native David Crawford. We'll hear in a moment his new single, Africa Nouveau, from the release. The first release, I should say, from his forthcoming debut album called Something Borrowed, Something New. We'll hear that a little bit later. But I'm delighted to have David Crawford in studio. David, good to see you, man. How are you?
Oh, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Well, Miles, let's that ride because it sounds so good. I was thinking, walking into the studio today, knowing you were going to be here, how many Black flutists I have ever known. I just saw Stevie the other day. Stevie, of course, plays the harmonica, as we all know, in addition to other instruments. But I don't know that I know a bunch of Black flutists. So how did a Black man from Compton end up being a flutist?
Well, I tell you, living in Compton, my dad I forget where he was working at the time, but it just fell into his lap, and he brought it home. And so he said, and he always, well, we were family. My mother, on my mother's side, her brother was a musician, and
Right.
so he brought the instrument home, and it was an older model. It was a German flute.
Yeah.
And so finally, when I started taking lessons, I brought it to the teacher, and he said, "What kind of flute is this?"
Yeah.
It wasn't the standard one that
Right.
we use today. And apparently, I just kind of embraced it pretty quickly, and I got to be pretty successful in moving on with it.
Yeah. I should mention David Crawford's play. I mentioned Stevie a moment ago. I should have said he's played with Stevie, of course. He's played with Stevie and Isaac Hayes and Bill Withers and Gladys Knight and Mary J. Blige and Patti LaBelle. The list goes on and on of all the folks that David Crawford has played with. What is it? Again, your dad brought it home, and it just sort of happens this way. But what is it about the sound that the flute makes, that you produce with the flute, that so resonates with our spirits and our souls? And I say that because I mean that. It's not just something we hear in our ear. There's something about the sound of this instrument that touches you in your heart and your soul. It's soft. It is soothing. It is, but that's just me talking. I'm trying to describe how it makes me feel. But you're the flutist. Tell me about why this instrument works for us.
Well, it's a cross between the piano in terms of flexibility. You can do a lot of things, and it's a cross between the violin. And the difference being, the flute, you can sustain a sound and make it It could be a high sound or it could be a low sound. Where piano, you hit it and it's kind of it. So you can kind of sink into the sound you're trying to produce. If it's a melody or just a passage that's accompanying, it can be soothing because it has a pretty good range in terms of the dynamics of the sound.
Yep.
So, actually, it was I was only 7 and I couldn't even hold the flute because I was so small. It was couldn't reach all the keys, and so that's why I had to get the standard flute because the German flute had the little holes in it, and the fingering was kind of stretched, and I wasn't physically ready.
Couldn't handle it.
I finally got through it. And I finally got a teacher in Compton.
Yeah.
Actually, in Watts. He lived in Watts.
Yeah. What do you make of the fact? I'm always fascinated by these backstories, and this audience knows it. It's always the backstory that gets my attention. But I crack up when I hear stories like this because you're a 7-year-old kid. Your dad finds some strange instrument, some German instrument, and just brings it home and gives it to you. And you look up years later, and you are the flutist, the arranger, David Crawford, but only because your dad brought this thing home. I mean, the ways in which we get on our paths to finding our muses, the way we discover what God created us to do, these ways are beyond our ways, right? And it's always fascinating when I hear these stories. I mean, but for your dad doing that, and obviously it was meant to be, who knew that you'd become the flutist that you are, and you wouldn't be in the studio talking to me about your brilliant work? But I just crack up that it's because your dad brought something home one day.
That was about the size of it. I remember taking the bus to get to the lesson, because we lived in Compton, so now the problem, I shouldn't say the problem, but the flute kind of really brought me to the dance of the music industry, because if you're going to be a studio musician at that time, you had to be able to play flute, clarinet, saxophone, at least.
Right.
And I only played the flute, so I was able maybe to do a commercial or two in terms of making a living.
Sure.
But I enjoyed arranging music because orchestra, I've always played in an orchestra. So I had that ear, and friends that I knew, they knew I had a handle on that.
Yeah.
And so I got my first job with Jerry Peters, the guy that wrote Going in Circles.
Oh, yeah.
We were colleagues. And he said, "Man, can you do some strings for me?" On the project. And from there, I really got work as an arranger, and that's how I made my living. Not as a flutist, unfortunately.
As an arranger, though.
Yeah, because I played in the Santa Monica Symphony and the Burbank Symphony, and different orchestras. But it's not it's not really a good living, and it's. Unless you play in an A orchestra like the LA Phil,
sure,
or even the Glendale Symphony, you can make a living. But you really would have to try to do studio work, which is limited.
Well, as an arranger, you ain't done bad. That's where the money is anyway. Arranging and writing.
Absolutely.
Quincy used to always tell me, Q is my dear friend. Q would always tell me all the time, Tavis, ain't no money like music money, because music money don't stop.
Yeah.
He said music money is both horizontal and vertical. If you do it right, you make your money when you're standing up, and you make your money when you're laying down sleeping. That's Quincy Jones. But this is David Crawford. More with him when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley.
They say time flies when you're having fun. The founding members cohort of The Art of Conversation is almost over. Hard to believe. It's been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now, the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, Do not hesitate. Go to TavisTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavisTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning. The cap is loose on that ketchup.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline nasal spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line. But my throat has officially thrown in the towel.
Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in.
But we're okay with that.
You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
Yes, I love you. I love you. Oh, baby, I need you.
I love strings. I've always loved strings. You heard David Crawford mention his friend Jerry Peters and that classic hit, Going in Circles. There you have it. I saw David's face kind of light up when he heard the music coming through his headphones. Yeah, we can do that, David. My guy Miles is pretty good. He went and found it.
Wow.
So this is Jerry Peters Going in Circles, and hear those strings. And David was telling a story earlier about how he got started years ago. And this is one of the tracks that he was able to support Jerry Peters on. He has always been in orchestras, basically, and we're honored to have him on this program. In case you've just tuned in, we're talking to David Crawford, flutist, veteran arranger who worked with Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight, Mary J., Bill Withers, Stevie Wonder, Isaac Hayes, everybody has been blessed to work with David Crawford, and as he plays this instrument that not many of us actually play, but he's one of the best on it. He has a new project that is forthcoming called Something Borrowed, Something New, and we're honored to have him on this program and premiere of that. We started this hour with a track of his I love called Renaissance. In a moment, I'm going to play the first single from this new forthcoming project called, again, Something Borrowed, Something New. It's called Africa Nouveau. Before I play Africa Nouveau, tell me about this track, David, and then we'll let the audience hear some of it.
Well, it's an idea that I've wanted to kind of give homage to a lot of the black leaders and the accomplishments of the black community throughout. I know Africa is is making progress in terms of controlling their economic and their financial structures and how they are better protecting their resources and minerals, slowly but surely. But and then all the progress that that we've made here in this country. So it's just and the roots are Africa. We're Africans. We're in America, but we're Africans. That's our roots. So it was just kind of a laid back, kind of a reminiscent. Where
He calls it a laid back reminiscence. You decide for yourself. Here it is, Africa Nouveau. He calls it a laid-back reminiscence. Whatever you call it, it sounds good, as does everything that David Crawford brings us with his flute. I was laughing, David. I have a really, really bright audience. I say all the time that I am blessed to have one of the smartest audiences in the country listening to this program every day. And whenever I say something about which I need to be corrected or need to be enlightened, my audience does not hesitate to let me know that I missed it. And so I was thinking, I said earlier, I'm thinking of how many black people do I know who actually play the flute? And I'm looking at all these messages coming in. This Tavis, Lizzo plays the flute.
Yeah, Lizzo.
And then they said Tavis, Andre 3000 of Outkast plays the flute. So I just love our audience, just letting me know.
Then Hubert Laws, the premier flutist.
Yeah, of course, Hubert Laws. Yeah, exactly. And I should have mentioned Hubert. I did know Hubert. But I did not think about Lizzo. I did not think about Andre 3000. So I got to thank God my audience rescues me every night. As I say, somebody rescue me if I'm wrong. Quoting my friend Milana Karenga, somebody rescue me if I'm wrong. And so there are two shout-outs at least to two other artists who play the flute. And so I love the audience for just, chin-checking me when I need to be chin-checked. I hadn't thought about that. So it's a beautiful thing. So that leads me to make this point, though. When you have a range of people who are playing the flute on a wide range of music, and yet it still works, that's fascinating for me. So you got, Lizzo stuff is in one lane.
Yeah.
You got Andre in another lane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hubert Laws in another lane. Here you are in this lane. It is fascinating to me that this instrument that, again, most of us, this is not, again, to your point, it ain't guitar, it ain't piano,
right.
It's a different kind of instrument. But the fact that it can be used so beautifully in such a wide range of music is fascinating for me. Say a word about that part, David, if you will.
Yeah, particularly with smooth jazz.
Right.
Excuse me. A lot of the radio stations don't see it as a leading instrument, so they're a little shy about it, doing that. I don't know if you noticed, but there's now things have changed. Kim Scott and some other flutists that are rising. So it's a really delicate balance in terms of just getting radio play because it's not it hasn't been considered a featured instrument. Like the flute has always been in an orchestra. It's kind of in the background of a band, or or just a little solo piece, that they were trying to.
It's not a saxophone.
It's not a saxophone, not a trumpet,
Yeah.
And the other issue is, drummers like to play. They want to hit you. Well, if you can't be fighting with the drummer in terms because it's not a heavy instrument. It's a light instrument.
Right.
It has a big range, pretty good range, but it's not a heavy leading instrument, and so a drummer can wipe you out. So you have to pick the right setting really to kind of make it work. I think like Jethro Tull. He was a black artist, but he was a rock and roll, and he kind of brought it to the forefront in terms of commercial music. But it's not easy for the flute to find its way through, like as a leading instrument and something.
You mentioned earlier that while you are an amazing flutist, and we have seen evidence of that, of course, with the tracks that we played. In this hour, from Renaissance to African Nouveau to your piece, Going in Circles with Jerry Peters. There's no doubt about that part. But you made your living primarily as an arranger in these days. I call you a veteran arranger. Tell me about that particular part of your journey, the arranging part.
Yeah, well, it's something that I really enjoyed, orchestration, because it was always in my ear, because that's all I played with. Unfortunately, I didn't have a gospel background or because the church we went to in Compton was a Presbyterian Protestant type church, and there was no band.
You missed out on the Baptist Pentecostal thing.
I missed out on all of that, so I didn't have a gospel or a blues background. Thank you, and so that it kind of put me in a lane in terms of what I was hearing, and so when I started working with commercial music. The strings were no problem, but they said, well, give me some horns. Well, I didn't have a lot of experience. I mean, I heard things, but it just wasn't naturally in my ear.
Right.
So I always had to think hard. Okay, what do they want?
Let me ask you, this question works both ways. Let me ask both parts of it. What do you think you miss? Because it's rare, not so much these days, because these days all these black kids aren't necessarily raised in black churches, but there was a time when the black church experience for a musician was hegemonic. If you're a black musician, you came out of somebody's black church back in the day, as you well know. What do you think you missed musically at that early age by not being exposed to music inside of a black church? And the flip side of that question is what they missed being in the black church and not being in an orchestra like you were. So it cuts both ways. You follow me?
Yeah, actually,
what do you think you missed by not having that black church, that black church base, that foundation, as it were?
Yeah, I didn't have any gospel roots in terms of what I was hearing in my ear or blues.
Right. That's a lot to miss out on,
and that's a lot to miss out on. So I had a lot of, when I started doing arrangements, a lot of times they not only wanted strings, but they wanted horns, So it was a little challenge, I had to work at it. Let me put it like that. Where some cats could just say, and then that's it,
And conversely, what do you think the benefit would be of black artists who come out of that experience, that black church, that black gospel, that black blues, that blues experience? What would the advantage to them be of having run the lane that you ran in, on the orchestral side? How do you think that would benefit their output?
Well, it would broaden the sound. Typically there's a certain sound, but if you bring in orchestral elements, it kind of expands the sound in terms of the overall sound of the project.
I mentioned. I'm sorry.
Or they would have trouble, not knowing, say, the French horn or the cello, or if you don't know how to orchestrate for that, you could maybe have it, but you don't have the ear, because if you've been in that other side,
Speaking, you mentioned Watts and Compton. Speaking of L.A., for some reason his name and face popped into my head because he had both. And that would be the maestro Barry White.
Yeah.
I love Barry. Everybody loves Barry's R&B stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that Love Unlimited Orchestra that he had, man, please.
That's Gene Page.
Yeah.
Great.
That Love Unlimited Orchestra that Barry White worked with, and I love, if you've never seen it, you should just Google Barry White. Today, if you get a chance, just Google Barry White orchestrating the Love Unlimited Orchestra. It's just a beautiful thing to watch Barry White on the stand conducting that orchestra. It's a beautiful thing. I smile every time I see it.
It's just optics. So, the man behind it is
That's right.
Gene Page.
Yeah, I got that. I got it.
But looks, I know what you're saying.
I ain't on Gene Page. But I still love watching Barry.
Yeah, watching Barry.
I love watching Barry do his thing.
It was the right look, for what he was doing. Yeah.
And I love the name of it, the Love Unlimited Orchestra.
Yeah.
That's a great name. Love
great
Unlimited.
Name, great.
All right, I got 2 minutes left to go. A little less than 2 minutes, like 90 seconds. Tell me what you can about this forthcoming debut album, Something Borrowed, Something New. What you say about the album?
Well, I probably would want to take some of the older things and just remake them,
right,
and give a whole new look on them,
right,
and then come up with some new ideas. And that's basically it. Yeah.
You're too modest, David. You're way too modest. He's done a lot of great work. So he is, of course, a veteran arranger. So however he rearranges, I should say, the stuff he's done before is still going to sound awfully appealing and awfully good to our ears. He is flutist, as I said, veteran arranger, Compton native, has played with a little bit of everybody on this instrument that we call the flute. Everybody, again, from Patty to Gladys to Mary J to Bill to Stevie to Isaac and so many others. It's an honor to have had David Crawford in studio to share with us this project called Africa Nouveau. You're listening to it now. It is the new single from the new album whenever it drops. Something Borrowed, Something New. We'll let you know when it does drop. David, I'm glad you dropped in. Good to see you, my friend. All the rest. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. More of Tavis Smiley. We'll close with Dr. Nicolai Corte. He was covering the services of Jesse Jackson Jr. in Chicago. We'll get his insights when we come forward here on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. U.S. operations in Iran enter a second week with Secretary of State Marco Rubio calling it an extraordinary operation.
This regime in Iran has less missiles, has less launchers, their factories work less, and their navy is being eviscerated.
President Trump attended a dignified transfer of 6 soldiers. A federal judge has dismissed a $1 billion lawsuit filed by Kendrick Johnson's parents in Georgia over his 2013 death, citing immunity protections and procedural issues. Johnson's family, long disputing the official findings and alleging a cover-up, has already filed an appeal. And Live Nation and the DOJ have reached a settlement in their antitrust case after testimony threatened a breakup with Ticketmaster. The 2010 merger was accused of creating an illegal monopoly that inflated ticket prices. Live Nation will now reportedly pay about $200 million in damages. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Head to Waba Grill weekdays after 3 p.m. for their $5 happy hour and try their new chili crisp dumplings. Bold, crunchy, and tossed in a fiery crisp, paired with a premium Waba beverage drink like their authentic Thai tea. Get both for just $5 only at Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers beat the New York Knicks Sunday without LeBron. He's got an elbow injury. Luka Doncic dropped 35 points in the Lakers' 110-97 win at Crypto.com. The Clippers play the Knicks tonight at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. The Clippers are 31-32. A win tonight puts them at 500 for the first time since November 3rd when they were 3-3. Congratulations to the UCLA women's basketball team. They won their second straight Big Ten Conference Tournament championship Sunday. UCLA dominated Iowa 96-45. 25 straight wins for the Bruins, who are now 31-1. Kiki Rice had 15 points and 8 assists. Rice was voted tournament MVP. The Rams had the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. They signed 25-year-old Trent McDuffie Sunday to a 4-year extension worth $124 million. The Rams got McDuffie in a trade Wednesday with Kansas City. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
They say time flies when you're having fun. The founding members cohort of The Art of Conversation is almost over. Hard to believe. It's been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now, the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, do not hesitate. Go to TavisTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavisTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
When your car is making a strange noise, no matter what it is, you can't just pretend it's not happening.
That's an interesting sound.
It's like your mental health. If you're struggling and feeling overwhelmed, it's important to do something about it. It can be as simple as talking to someone in your community, or just taking a deep, calming breath when you need it. Nice. For mental health resources, check out loveyourmindtoday.org. At loveyourmindtoday.org, you'll find information that may help you get through a tough time. Things like tips for dealing with stress, how to navigate difficulties like financial worries, anger, substance use, and more. You can also find real stories of how people navigated their own mental health challenges. Because once you start to address the problem, you can go so much further. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is connecting you with services and solutions. Domestic violence and family violence is when someone in an intimate or family relationship tries to gain or maintain power and control over another through a wide range of abusive behaviors. Every single act may amount to abuse. Abuse can take on various forms: psychological and emotional, physical and economic, and sexual abuse. The Genesee Center Incorporated is a nationally recognized nonprofit domestic violence prevention and intervention organization, housing women and children from 30 days up to 2 years through emergency and transitional shelters. The Genesee Center also provides support services like mental health counseling, life skills classes, computer training, job referrals, after-school programs for children, field trips, tutoring, and comprehensive direct legal services. If you need help or you'd like to donate or volunteer, call the Genesee Hotline, 1-800-479-7328. That's 1-800-479-7328, or visit genesee.org. Everyone has the right to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley, Dr. Quarterly Corte. He is my colleague here at my home station in L.A., KBLA Talk 1580. He is our afternoon drive host with his own powerful program called A More Perfect Union. And he's our White House correspondent, best-selling author, professor at Pepperdine, etc., etc., etc. You don't ever sleep, huh?
You know something about that.
Yeah, something about it. And he traveled with me to Chicago for the funeral services last week of the Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. I should thank him publicly. I've said it privately, but we posted a lot of stuff last week in real time. First of all, I am grateful to my team here. I was obviously in Chicago, but Miles and Andy and my entire team here in L.A. made sure that we were the only station in L.A. This program is heard nationally. As I always say, for that I am grateful. But here in L.A., where Jesse had a huge footprint, huge imprint, we had our own service a week ago Friday celebrating him here in L.A., produced by this station. And then we came behind that the following Friday as the only station in L.A. that played those services in their entirety all day Friday, all 5.5, 6 hours, whatever it was. We broadcast that live on KBLA, and I've heard from so many people in Southern California and beyond who are grateful to us for playing that, because if you weren't in front of a television and you're moving around, how do you hear it? And so we are grateful, we are humbled to have been able to provide that service, as it were. Take that any way you want to take it, provide that service to our audience. And so I've been seeing your comments, and so thank you for thanking us for broadcasting that service live, number one. But number two, during that entire day, there was a lot of video posting and a lot of photographs we posted, which wasn't easy because the church got a lot of things right. The one thing they messed up on, their Wi-Fi wasn't together. And so Dr. Cortez, covering this, had to keep running outside the building to get stuff sent back to L.A. to get posted on all of our socials. But all that stuff you saw posted, and I've heard many of you say, man, such a great posting, Tavis. I had nothing to do with it. I'm just in the photos. I'm in the videos. But Dr. Cortez did all of that. And so, Nicole, I thank you for pushing that stuff out for us.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And, I geek out on the opportunity to capture a first draft of history. I geek out at the opportunity to bring our leaders, learners, and listeners along for the ride.
Well, I appreciate that. I love that photo of you and Linda Bird Johnson.
Yeah.
Daughter of Lady Bird and LBJ.
Talk about living history.
I saw that photo of the two of you. That was a great photo.
There was a friend who introduced us and was like, oh, my gosh, you're LBJ's daughter?
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And was the sweetest pie, and I look forward to inviting her on A More Perfect Union in the coming weeks.
Yep. So I mentioned earlier there were a lot of big-time journalists covering this, black journalists. I've said many times that the black media is more necessary, more relevant now than ever before. Why? Because we ask questions other folk don't ask. We raise issues they don't raise. We profile people doing great work who need to be profiled, and we cover the stories of what it means to bury our dead with respect and with dignity that Dr. West talked about earlier on today's program, and you were one of those major journalists who were there. I saw you, of course, all day long. I saw Ed Gordon. I saw Roland Martin. I saw Abby Phillip. Everybody was there covering it. As one who was covering this, obviously you're connected to it from a humanistic standpoint, but as a journalist covering this event, what did you make of it?
Well, I was just so taken by the storytelling. Yes, the services lasted several hours, but they didn't feel like they lasted several hours because there were so many different stories. I mean, how do you tell the story of the life of a civil rights icon, someone who has meant so much to so many generations of black people? For anybody who's had the opportunity to get their hands on the program for the services on Friday, that program was breathtaking.
It is indeed.
Whoever had their hands in shaping that and creating that,
Miss Jackie,
right? it shows. There's a saying that love is in the details.
That's right.
And there was a lot of love that was put into not just that program book, but the entire program from beginning to end. I had mentioned to Jesse Jr. After the services on Friday, you could have 10 services for the Reverend Jesse Jackson, and it still wouldn't be enough to capture the fullness of his contributions to a range of black people, both at home and abroad, people who are part of this rainbow coalition. I want to remind folks that, he was talking to people that the Democratic establishment wasn't really checking for, right? And it's because of Jesse Jackson. It's because of his commitment to his values. It's because what Jesse Jr. said, his father's greatest contribution, not being political, being psychological, right? That has allowed us to come this far and keep going.
And what he meant by that was when Jesse taps into that somebodyness.
That's right.
That somebodyness. I am somebody. His impact, Jesse Jr. argued, was more psychological even than it was political, and it was pretty significant. In terms of the political impact of it. So Nicole hung out with us, Dr. West and I, all day. And after we were together at the services for those 6 or 7 hours, whatever it was, all day, in the media room, in the service. Afterwards, we were invited to a private reception that the Mayor Brandon Johnson, our friend, hosted. So we went to this private reception with the mayor. The Jackson family was there. We spent some time with the family, Miss Jackie, et cetera, et cetera. And then after that, we went to a private dinner that Jesse Jr. held for his family and friends. And so we spent the whole day together, and I just joyed in being with my friend Dr. Cortez and Dr. West, my two doctor friends, all day in Chicago. He mentioned Jesse Jr. a moment ago. Miles, I want to play this clip. This clip of Jesse speaking on Saturday has been picked up everywhere. It's on TMZ. It's in the New York Post. It's on Fox News. Everybody is playing this particular clip from Jesse Jackson Jr. Hear it for yourself.
Yesterday, I listened for several hours of 3 United States presidents who do not know Jesse Jackson. He maintained a tense relationship with the political order, not because the presidents were white or black, but the demands of our message, the demands of speaking for the least of these, those who were disinherited, the damned, the dispossessed, the disrespected, demanded not Democratic or Republican solutions, but demanded a consistent, prophetic voice that at no point in time ever sold us out as a people. And it speaks volumes about who the Reverend Jesse Jackson was. Our message has already been delivered today. I can see it all over my mother's face. Rise, Jesse, rise.
That clip, Nicolai, is being played everywhere. TMZ uses that clip with a headline that reads, and I quote, Jesse Jackson Jr. slams Biden. Let me try that again. Jesse Jackson Jr. slams Obama, Biden for Trump remarks at father's funeral. So people are taking Jesse's comments to say he went in on these presidents. That's how it's being reported as a reporter, as a journalist. How are you reading the reporting about his commentary?
Well, I think you got to take into context this service lasted several hours. This was not towards the beginning or middle. If I remember correctly, it was towards the last third of the service. Mm-hmm. That you got to take into context that it was clear to me that, and probably to a number of folks in the room, that former President Clinton seemed to have the most personal story.
No question about it.
When it came to Jesse Jackson. But each of those presidents, their presidency wouldn't have been possible, without Jesse Jackson. In fact, I think Bill Clinton said that in the most direct way,
explicitly,
right? Saying that, Jesse Jackson made me a better president, right? And so, everyone has their experiences, especially when we're talking about global figures, global icons like Jesse Jackson. I'm not surprised that, some folks' remarks felt probably more on the nose for the family than others. But let's also be clear that there are outlets out there that are going to take this little piece, because Jesse Jackson Jr. said a lot. Mm-hmm. And I encourage people to go back and listen to his remarks, particularly on Friday. Mm-hmm. He said a lot.
That's right.
But a lot of people, specifically conservative outlets, are going to take this and are going to try and contort it, right? And so we have to be aware of that as well.
And it's fascinating that Jesse is running for Congress again. So I was struck, not at all surprised. I've known him we've been friends for 30 plus years. But I was processing, there's a better word, his commentary in real time, knowing he's on the campaign trail running for Congress again.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And last time I checked, according to the polls, he's leading in the polls.
No question about it. Yeah.
And so it's highly likely that he will return to Congress. And it's going to be interesting to see how his likely future tenure in Congress, how is it any different than
the first time around?
His first 17 years, was it?
That's right.
In Congress.
That's right. And he'll be serving with his brother, too. So now you have two Jackson boys.
Yeah.
As Al Sharpton said, imagine that, two brothers in Chicago, both serving in Congress together, Jonathan and Jesse Jr., assuming that he wins in November, which at the moment it appears that he's the front runner to take over. I just love the comeback story.
Yeah.
He's going right back to the same seat that he held for 17 years. He paid his price by going to prison. He talks about it all the time, and one of his issues, of course, is the need for pardons for millions of Americans who deserve and earn those pardons, a pardon which Jesse Jr. did not receive from Joe Biden or any other president for that matter. And so that's going to be one of his signature issues, raising these issues for pardons for millions of Americans who deserve them. So God uses us in uniquely different ways. All these experiences come to bear in our lives if we lean into them. And we're excited about the potential, possibility of Jesse Jackson Jr. going back to Congress. What it means for us losing a colleague, I do not know. But at least he'll be in Congress. We'll cross that bridge, as we say, when we get to it. More with Nicolai Corte when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Warning, evacuation in progress. Leave the building.
It's a total takeover.
That's what I want.
On Friday, March 27th, KBLA Talk 1580 belongs to the women.
Are you ready?
All day long, from 6 in the morning to midnight, the mic belongs to powerful, accomplished women, and we are not letting go. Nothing but the voices of women who inspire, challenge, and move us forward. It's the women of KBLA Talk 1580, sun up to sundown. I'm Dominique DePrima, and I'll anchor the day with a 3-hour live panel from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the state of black women in LA, followed by women talking to women all day long about the issues that matter most. Our hosts for the day include Jill Monroe, Adrian Shropshire, Dr. Melina Abdullah, Angela Reddick Wright, Raquel Graham, Angelique Francis, Tasha Thomas, Dr. Shalonda Crawford, Dion Raymond, and a couple of special guest hosts for the day that we'll be announcing soon. This is Women's History Month, and we're not just celebrating it, we're amplifying it. Join us Friday, March 27th on KBLA Talk 1580, where women take over all day, all night. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 and all of our socials for the rundown. You don't want to miss a single word. And happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
To my ladies, I'll show you how to work that. Go.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in, but we're okay with that. You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed. I just can reconfirm. I knew he was, but I just wanted to reconfirm that Jesse Jackson Jr. is hosting his own show today. He's been in and out lately, the last couple of weeks, of course, handling his family business, but he is in his chair today. If you're listening to KBLA, my home station in L.A., you know he comes on after I do every day. He comes on at 12 noon Pacific time, so Jesse Jr. is in his chair today. So we've been talking about Jesse, but Jesse will have his own say for 2 hours coming up in about 9 minutes here in L.A., if you're listening on the West Coast or listening on our app, wherever you may be. But Jesse Jackson Jr. follows me every day on my home station. He will be in his chair, and I look forward to hearing his show myself. He's a trooper, still working. I think he hasn't really had time to grieve yet. He'll take some time off here eventually. But it is his choice to host his show today, and I suspect he's going to have some more to say, and to your point, provide some more context about what people are saying about what he said this weekend.
That's right. He certainly will. And look, especially given the mis and disinformation that's out there, and there's an avalanche of it. I really appreciate how Jesse Jr. and the family have been very direct in shutting down some of that mis and disinformation. So I too will be listening closely.
Yeah, I try not to use the phrase straight from the horse's mouth. I don't want to call Jesse a horse, although he is a stallion. He is a stallion in many ways. But Jesse Jackson Jr. Will host his own show, as he does every day here, following me on our home station in L.A. So you can hear Jesse in his own words opining and I'm sure sharing more about what this weekend was for him. We've been talking about it, but nothing quite like hearing from the namesake, how he and his family are navigating this moment, how they process getting through the weekend, and what he has to say, again, about all these stories, about what he had to say over the weekend on Friday and Saturday. When we come forward, in our remaining moments with Dr. Nicola, we'll end with some news. We always do. He is our White House correspondent, and the White House is making news. Donald Trump is saying it's too soon to talk about seizing Iran's oil, but he does not rule it out. So here we go again. Too soon to rule out seizing their oil. We done seized Venezuela's oil. Now we may seize Iran's oil. We'll let Nicola respond to that as our White House correspondent, and then we'll share a quick clip of an interview he had, exclusive interview, with Georgia Foote. That's one of the persons who, what did I say, Foote? Fort. Put my foot in my mouth. Georgia Fort. We'll play a clip from his conversation with her. She's one of those journalists who got arrested by the Trump administration. He had an exclusive conversation with her. We'll play a clip of that as well and talk about the importance, again, of black media in a moment like this. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is connecting you with services and solutions. Domestic violence and family violence is when someone in an intimate or family relationship tries to gain or maintain power and control over another through a wide range of abusive behaviors. Every single act may amount to abuse. Abuse can take on various forms: psychological and emotional, physical and economic, and sexual abuse. The Genesee Center Incorporated is a nationally recognized nonprofit domestic violence prevention and intervention organization, housing women and children from 30 days up to 2 years through emergency and transitional shelters. The Genesee Center also provides support services like mental health counseling, life skills classes, computer training, job referrals, after-school programs for children, field trips, tutoring, and comprehensive direct legal services. If you need help or you'd like to donate or volunteer, call the Genesee Hotline, 1-800-479-7328. That's 1-800-479-7328, or visit genesee.org. Everyone has the right to be safe. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this: Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage, because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person, complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
He's a paradigm pioneer, and the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Just a little less than 4 minutes here, a tight 4 to wrap this dialogue with Dr. Nicola Cortez. He's our White House correspondent, so we're always talking White House news. Donald Trump said this afternoon it's too soon to talk about seizing Iran's oil, but he does not rule it out.
He does not rule it out. And look, we're going to feel the effects of this military action in Iran, this war with Iran. We're already starting to see the price of oil go up over $100 a barrel. I just saw the CEO of United Airlines saying, fasten your seatbelt, get ready for air costs to go up. In part because jet fuel is getting real expensive really quickly, and airlines like to pass that on to the consumer first. And so fasten your seatbelts. This is going to be a rough ride.
And the son is the new leader now, supreme leader.
The son that this president had referred to as being incompetent after, of course, he took out his father. So you do the math on that. We in troubled waters.
Yep. The black media are more relevant and necessary now than ever before, as I often say. Here's some sound of a conversation that Nicola had recently with Georgia Fort, who was arrested by this administration. Miles?
You know, the last thing I'll just say is an attack on the press is not just an attack on journalists. It's really an attack on the public's right to know. Do you want to know the truth? Do you want to know the facts about what's happening in your community, what's happening in your country? And those of us, especially those of us who are independent, who are working in journalism, that is why we exist. That's why we do what we do. And, you know, we've seen the White House publish AI-altered images and present them as though they're real, as though they're facts. So do we want to live in a distorted reality? Or do we want trusted sources, trusted journalists to continue doing the research and the digging and the reporting that they do to bring us facts? And so that's what this campaign really is about.
Lots of black folk covering the Jesse Jackson funeral. It's our job to make sure that on that and every other issue, we get the framing right.
That's right. And Tavis, if all of your listeners are very clear-eyed on this question, can documenting the news become grounds for arrest in the United States? If your answer to that question is no, it should not, then you should go on to Georgia Fort's website and click on Protect the Press. It's her national call to defend the First Amendment and confront what she describes as the growing criminalization of journalism in America. Always
honored to have Dr. Nicola Cortez on this program. Again, our White House correspondent, host of his own program, A More Perfect Union, author of the book, Kamala, the Motherland, and Me. We saw Kamala at the services.
We sure did.
This weekend was quite a day, quite a couple of days in Chicago. Dr. Cortez, thanks for your insights, my friend.
Thank you, Tavis.
Just like that, 3 hours gone. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until tomorrow, thanks for tuning in to Tavis Smiley. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. U.S. operations in Iran enter a second week with Secretary of State Marco Rubio calling it an extraordinary operation.
This regime in Iran has less missiles, has less launchers, their factories work less, and their navy is being eviscerated.
President Trump attended a dignified transfer of 6 soldiers. A federal judge has dismissed a $1 billion lawsuit filed by Kendrick Johnson's parents in